Started at midnight. They have, yeah, once pulp temperature gets to 65, they quit, because then it gets, you can't cool them down. John?
They
Hi, boys and girls.
I saw across, I said, I'm gonna cross this over.
Used to do that.
Did you?
Yep.
Sit down.
Checked it.
Yeah.
No. Doesn't look like it out in the peanut gallery that anybody's 6 foot.
You know what I'm saying? I said,
How are you? Thank you. And two wheel in the front one and one wheel in the back.
See was there. He had a little bout of prostate cancer, but he had.
Scooters all the time. Decided to get a three wheel. Wheels in front, one wheel in the back.
Pedal bike or?
Motorcycle.
Motorcycle.
Can-Am or something. You call it.
Oh, yeah,
Can-Ams.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see them every once in a while. They look like they're fun.
Boy, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm not gonna be here for a couple of
JB?
months.
Yeah.
Or JS.
JS. No, JB.
That's my screen.
Yes, I'm JB because I have a cousin that's JC. John Charles.
So am I, John Charles.
You are?
I am.
Are you going up the Wild Roses?
No, my wife's in the hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Stomach problems. It's part of it. It's part of it.
Oh, this is what we just got.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle and I are working on one today. No, Kevin, it's just,
I think Janice read that in the, was it in the? The letter from here. And so that will allow them,
I didn't agree with it. And,
she read it. That will allow
so
the village to do things that they would normally be spending tax money on. No, I said, they already have a budget. That's an $80,000 plus. So why don't they do things?
thank you. But you know what I did? This time, I taped I taped it. I had him on speakerphone. And I said, I just want you to know, you're being taped. He goes, what is that supposed to intimidate you? Is that what you're trying to do? I said, no, I just want you to know you're being taped.
Stirring up position.
Get a microphone for him to work.
Yeah, they got
Can you read that?
it. Cindy put it in their folders.
Want me to read that?
Hey, Mary.
You got it. Well, not me, you.
I'll read it. Go ahead.
Make sure it's on.
Kyle.
Push a little button, push a little button.
Mine's working. Yours working?
Should be green. Here, this one's.
If I could have your attention, please. Any person other than the applicant wishing to speak before either committee must fill out a registration slip, which can be found outside either door, and turn them in here at the front desk if you haven't already done so.
Thank you.
You can use this one.
John?
I gave it to Avery.
Oh, okay.
You got a slip right up here.
There it's on.
Thank you.
Like that shirt. Oh, PBR. Sign. Seal up.
Yeah. Garage floor, because I haven't seen by choice. Camera material. Brush and wash. This is the second time, so there's nothing there. Scared as shit. Because it just popped out. Heading out the door, and I was not real close. Yeah, I thought I was just. And yes, somehow or another, that hit him just very, very, lifted him up in the air, and shot him 10 feet out into the drive.
You won't be back.
I just stood there. I thought I was flying mouse.
Coming back asking.
Non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned.
Personally, I think it's. I'll permit that.
service officer.
Yes. I've seen him a couple times. Good guy to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, if you want to speak tonight, you can fill out a slip outside. State your opinion.
Said, he said it takes about 1 minute. Get on the back of
Yep.
each one. Look. Two of us. That was some. Says we're out of metals, and that was his act, so we're out of metals. So what's your metals group did? And we'd both been in the infantry, both of us were here.
Ready?
Sure.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Evening, everybody. We'll get started. The first hearing tonight is for the Board of Adjustments. I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Board of Adjustments to order. This meeting will begin with a public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or the representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct its monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the application. You may stay for the meeting and hear how the application is decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of the decision can sign the sheet on the table at the front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of the proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing the application tonight is, after the application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will have the opportunity to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the board. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I'll then ask for a summary of the board's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a brief rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone at the front, state their name, and direct their comments to the board. I ask that all testimony be kept brief and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded and recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The board has looked at the property, and the record will reflect their observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this board has 30 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals shall be heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of the 30-day period. I'll now introduce the board. Larry Tiemann, far back, George Peterman, John Bentz, John Shirk, and I'm Kevin Fitzgerald, and our zoning administrator, Todd. First hearing tonight, the only one we have, a variance. Kyle Tesh, Pine River, Wisconsin, has made an application for variance in accordance with section 58-235 sub B sub 5, 58-452 sub C sub 1, 58-826 sub B of the Waushara County Zoning Code to construct a 28 by 26 addition to an existing single-family dwelling to exceed 25% of the existing non-conforming dwelling non-conforming due to road setback from center line, 63 feet required in the AG agricultural zone. Location, approximately 1.5 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of CSM 6542, being part of the NE 1/4 of the Southeast 1/4, Section 12, T20N R12E, Town of Saxville. Address N6623 31st Avenue. Will the applicant or his agent please come forward and explain to us what you'd like to do today?
Hi, I'm Jeff Getzky. Thanks for coming out on Monday.
Speak in the mic, please.
I'm Jeff Getzky. Thanks for coming out on Monday. We're
Okay.
looking at adding a garage and a story addition above the garage, seeing that they don't have any kind of garage attached to the home right now. If you have any questions, I think you guys all have the paperwork.
Is that Mr.
Kyle.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start with some questions. The board may have some questions for you to answer as best as you can. Has there been a recent survey there?
The survey was within the last 2 years, I believe, under
Okay.
land contract.
We know where the road right away is there, correct? Have you talked to the town about this project?
Not yet.
Okay. Is there a problem with the erosion or stormwater runoff there? Okay. And what type of foundation are you going to put this on?
4-foot frost wall.
How far above the existing grade will the first floor elevation be? And how much filling and grading will be done?
Next to none, probably about 6-8 inches.
What will the finished height be of the building?
16 feet to the second story, possibly about 28 feet to the peak.
Okay. Are we thinking about any other improvements at this time? Will all other setbacks be met?
Yes.
There was a question when we were there about the septic system. Have you heard anything yet back on that?
Spencer was working on it this week.
Talk into the mic, please.
Spencer was working on it this week. I haven't heard anything from him yet.
Okay. With 3-car garage and you'll have enough room for parking, correct?
Yes, and if the 2 sheds behind it have to come down, we may put the garage doors on the back side so we can eliminate 3 driveways down to 1.
Okay. Then you'll have more than enough room for turnaround if you're gonna put them on the backside.
Yeah, it'd be excellent. Yeah.
Are there any other options that would be available to him that he would need a variance?
No.
Okay. And what are the hardships and unique property limitations which would support this application?
You need all 3 of them that were on the application,
Well,
was it?
yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Property owner has another child in the family now with no mechanical room. And it's necessary to put a forced air furnace and mechanical room in the house. So this is going to enable them to have the nursery and the master bedroom in one location and then free up space for a mechanical room in the house.
and the other thing would be the age of the farmhouse, where it was built back in the old days. How old is the farmhouse, do we know?
18 some.
18 something, the other buildings that are carved in stone says 1905, so somewhere around.
Okay. Larry here kind of knows the area. He thought it was around 1890 maybe. And the people that had it, Larry, what did you say? 17 kids lived? They had 17 kids that lived in that farmhouse. Do you know what permits you're gonna need?
We'll have to get the sanitary inspected and then we'll get the land use and building permit
Okay. If there was an approval of this variance request, when would you start building?
next week.
That's all the questions I have.
I want to hire you as a builder.
Board members?
Is this going to be connected to the main house?
Yes.
At the first level and the second level?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
John, Larry, anything?
No.
George? Okay. Have a seat, there'll be a rebuttal if you need it.
Okay.
Any correspondence?
We have not received any correspondence, and I have nobody registered to speak in favor, objecting, or even informational.
Okay, staff comments.
All right. Everyone has a copy of the staff report before you. I'm just going to give a real quick summary of the request. The applicant, Kyle Tesh, owner and occupant of the residence, is requesting a variance to construct a 28-foot by 26-foot addition onto the existing single-family dwelling, which will exceed the 25% allowed for an existing non-conforming dwelling. Non-conforming due to the road setback of 55 feet from the center line of 31st Avenue when 63 feet is required. As you've all seen, the existing home, it's an original farmstead which predates county zoning. It's based on what we've seen, probably pre-1900 construction. The only record that county actually maintains on it is a sanitary maintenance program document from 1975. We did do a property visit out there in August of 2021. It was at that point that we determined the existing residence was set back only 55 feet from center line. Based upon our standards, the non-conforming standards, they'd be allowed by code a maximum of 25% of the footprint. Given the existing footprint of the house of 1248, that would allow a maximum of only 312 square feet. As illustrated in the drawings that you have in your packets, there's a total of 728 square feet being proposed, which represents an increase in the footprint by about 58%. Board visited the property at the recent onsite on Monday, September 13th, and were generally very supportive of the variance request. Board felt the addition as proposed would not negatively impact neighboring properties as the existing home predated county zoning. The board did, however, question the existing sanitary system and requested that the system be evaluated. They also had concern regarding two drives situated directly in front and had asked that possibly two drives be consolidated back down to a single drive. Board also voiced concern over the proximity of two accessory structures that were within very close proximity to the west or rear elevation of the addition. Staff's reviewed this request and does not believe that the variance request will have a negative impact upon the neighboring land uses. Variance request is also in line with similar requests and variances approved within the past several years. While the board will be making a formal recommendation on this request later in the evening, staff is recommending approval of the variance to construct a 28 by 26 addition onto the existing single-family dwelling to exceed 25% of the existing non-conforming dwelling, and non-conforming due to road setback of 55 feet from center line of 31st Avenue, subject to the conditions you have listed before you. I do want to point out on section D in the possible approval conditions, items number 3, 5, and 10. 3 being that should the two accessory buildings at the west side be situated within 10 feet, the structures have to be either properly fireproofed and or removed at the time of construction. Number 5, that all permits must be obtained, including land use, building, and sanitary. And in sanitary, we would do an evaluation. And then item number 10 is the applicant shall be required to consolidate the two drives situated in front of the addition off of 31st Avenue into a single driveway. Said driveway shall meet all applicable code specifications and shall provide suitable turnaround to prevent backing out onto the road. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Todd. Any rebuttal necessary? Good. Okay, any other questions of the board? Seeing none. That'll conclude the public hearing on this. We'll go right into our business meeting. Call the order. Motion for approval of agenda, please.
That's a move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. Each have a copy of it. Any questions or comments on that? Larry?
I noticed that the secretary didn't sign it, or it's not signed on my copy.
Yeah, not signed on mine either.
Okay.
We'll take care of that. Anything else? Okay. A motion to approve the minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We'll take up the action on the public hearing we just had.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of the application.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Larry seconded. And the reasons, John?
An unnecessary hardship is present and the current code requirements would be unnecessarily burdensome and prevent the applicant from using the property for permitted use because very few alternatives exist. The impacts of construction are being minimized by proper planning of the addition. A minimal relaxation of the code is being granted. The circumstances are beyond the control of the applicant, are unique to the property, not to the applicant. The construction matches the lot and available area. And the hardship limitation of setbacks is due to unique physical features or limitations of the property, not the circumstances of the applicant as follows. Very little or no buildable area exists near the farmstead, and the lot predates zoning regulations. The variance will not harm the public interest or neighboring land uses and damage the intent of the zoning code because visibility is good at that driveway location, traffic is light, the septic will be evaluated, traffic is slow there. The proposed use will not harm the public zoning code or neighboring land uses if all the conditions are followed. A literal enforcement of the zoning code would be unnecessarily burdensome. Therefore, the requested variance, if approved, the following conditions shall apply. The development must be in substantial compliance with the site plan and testimony provided this evening. The first floor elevation and filling and grading shall be done in accordance with the site plan and any additional information given us this evening. Should the two accessory buildings at the west side of the property or rear of the garage be situated within 10 feet of the addition, said structures shall be either properly fireproofed and or removed at the time of construction. A minimum of 10 feet is required. All other required setbacks must be complied with. All permits must be obtained, including land use, building, and sanitary if necessary. All code requirements must be complied with. It's the responsibility of the builder and landowner to protect the neighboring lots and road during construction. Standard erosion control must be in place prior to construction. Any future construction cannot occur without first obtaining a variance. The applicant shall be required to consolidate the two drives situated in front of the addition off 31st Avenue into a single driveway. Said driveway shall meet all code specifications and shall provide suitable turnaround to prevent backing onto the road. The applicant will allow agents of Waushara County access to the property to ensure compliance with the terms of this decision, county codes, and state and federal laws. The landowner is responsible to maintain good visibility at the driveway entrance. The landowner is responsible for determining lot lines and required setbacks. The building shall not exceed a maximum height of 35 feet.
Larry?
I question item B2. The lot was created in 2018, so it does not predate zoning.
Oh, the lot was created in 2018?
Well, that's when the survey was done and it was split.
But that's a survey, not a CSM. That the lot itself actually is part of a block which goes back to literally the 1800s.
Yeah, but that particular lot was just created.
That lot just created. Okay, and that's fine, Larry. If that's the case, we can strike that condition. I thought that it was part of the block 5 or whatever of the original plat.
No, it wasn't.
Just said a building predate zoning.
Okay.
What number was that, Larry?
B2.
B2.
Would you like to change that to the building predates?
Let's, I'd
You can say
amend,
the building predates zoning.
Okay.
yeah, I'd amend that to building predates zoning regulations.
Not really the lot, it's the building.
Right.
Makes sense.
Okay, the board has heard it. Any other discussion on it? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. George? Larry?
Yes.
John Benz?
Yes.
John Sure.
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes. It's a 5-0 approval of the variance. Next on the agenda, any extensions of variances?
No, we have no other variances.
Map interpretations.
Okay, in your packets, you should have 2 map adjustments. As you're aware, every time we review land use permits or get development requests, and we go in and look at our county mapping in the ArcGIS program, We sometimes identify inconsistencies or possibly errors that were done in the past. The first I'd like to bring to your attention is the town of Dakota. It's a property located at the southwest corner of State Route 73 and 18th. It's a lone parcel that is right now, it's vacant, but it's zoned AG. I've scoured our files and literally went up and down the street looking for any of those. All of those properties were rezoned in the 80s, about the same time that the town of Dakota adopted our zoning. Obviously, we wouldn't want an AG property because most of the AG uses wouldn't even be permissible in a commercial zone anyways. What we're asking is that we just be allowed to make a minor map adjustment and extend the CG zone across that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve that.
Is there a second? George, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next one.
Okay, second, town of Mount Morris. John Jarvis recently came in with a proposed CSM for his parcel located at Pine Lane and Potter's Lake Road. When we pulled up the maps, as you could see there, the parcel is split by both RS20 and AG5. Once again, looking back at the records, now I know the town had adopted AG5 fairly recently in that area. I looked at the town comprehensive plan, the town land use plans. All of those plans show the coloring or the configuration of single family going to the western periphery of that lot. Once again, all we're asking is that for your approval to just allow us to make a minor map adjustment and extend RS20 across the entire parcel.
And that's a request from Mr. Jarvis.
It is. And John has a proposed CSM in. It's also attached in your packets. The lot 2 is going to be maintained for a future residence. Lot 1 is going to be turned over to Conservancy.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Okay, you've heard Todd's explanation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Larry seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Zoning administrator financial report and anything for next month?
Yeah, so next month, we do have one item on the agenda. It appears at this point, we have until the 22nd. The Canops and Flisses variation request is going to be coming back to us. They have met with Ruth and I've met with their attorney. They're proposing to take off, you'll see they're going to take off the front porch, which is the 8-foot extension, and ask that for your blessings to allow them to keep the 4-foot addition on the house. So that is a significant alteration. It's been over a year. And so they're going to be coming back here next month with that proposal.
Okay,
So,
we'll be here.
Will we get staff reports prior to that?
oh, absolutely. Yep. And we're going to go back out to the property as well and do an on-site.
Oh, all right.
So
That's one that's off by Wild Road.
Twin
on
Lake,
Twin Lake.
so next to the boat landing there.
Okay, and then lastly, and I'll keep it very brief, you have a copy of the budget up to date before you. And then obviously our permit activity to date from January to August 31st. Permit activity just continues to just be unbelievable. Revenues are up, my expenditures are down. I know last year, I think we had given back over $120,000 to the ledger. I'm going to surpass that this year, giving back to the.
They like,
Yeah.
administration
Unfortunately, I
administration
did
likes
any
you, Todd.
Yeah. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else on the board? Questions, comments, Larry?
Move we adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn a second. George Peterson seconds. All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Wadle and his committee is next.
It might come to the county board someday.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
See you Saturday.
Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah, weather's supposed to be pretty nice, so.
Yes.
yours, and then I've got, here's your agenda. Everything's pretty much in order. Yeah, that's, oops. Who's that? Here's agenda.
Rest of my crew.
Just saw them. They were all standing. Yeah.
Did they all jump ship on me? See it closer to boy.
Sir? Hey, Kyle. Sure.
I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Board of Adjustments. Please remember to keep your comments brief and relative to the matter at hand. The same time limits will apply to testimony, which is 5 minutes for the applicant, outside of committee questions, and 3 minutes for other testimony, including any rebuttal by the applicant. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator on my right-hand side. The committee has looked at the properties and the record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the committee will conduct their monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the application. You may stay and hear how the application is decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustment. Information and applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To my immediate left is Jerry Lauer, Mike Cap, and back Pat King and John Van Amerongen. Yeah, thought I was going to murder it, didn't you? All right. The first and only application or item we have tonight is a conditional use tabled from the July 15th, 2021 public hearing. Alliant Energy, Madison, Wisconsin, has made an application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-236, paragraph 20, and 58-454, paragraph 29 of the Waushara County zoning code to conditionally establish a 99 megawatt solar energy farm on 624 operational acres of an approximate 1,283.5 acre developmental project area in the AG General Ag Zone. Location: approximately 1,283.5 acres generally south of State Highway 21 and west of State Highway 22 in sections 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 15, and 16, Town of Dakota. Is the applicant present? Would you step up to the microphone? And if it's all right with the audience, we'll probably give you a little more than 5 minutes.
That would be appreciated.
But if it goes over 10, you're buying pizza. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's perfect. First of all, Waushara County Board, thanks for having us again. And the residents of Waushara County and the residents of the town of Dakota and the city of Wautoma, thanks for having us again. For many of the people, this is going to be a reiteration to the project and the discussion about the project, the Wautoma Solar Project. We'll just give Kyle a moment there. Neither do I. There we go. Okay, next slide. Tonight's agenda, we'll get into, and we will try to move this along as quickly as we possibly can because I know there will be questions, there will be comments. In support of me today, I have several other folks from Alliant Energy, also our environmental consultant, and our construction project manager with our EPC. So they might be able to field some questions that I might not be able to answer entirely. But tonight's agenda, of course, we'll walk through the state and the local permit filing efforts that we have gone through. We'll take a look at the Wautoma Solar Project at a glance. And once again, a lot of people here have already seen this several times. We'll look at the conditional use permit application timeline because I think that's kind of important as to how we got here tonight. We'll look at our community efforts that we've done so far, kind of the project takeaways for the community, the conditions that we are thinking might be good for the conditional use permit if it's approved, and what the Wautoma Solar Project means for the community. So to talk about this a little bit at a super high level, Alliant Energy, of course, came out with a clean energy blueprint a couple of years ago, one of which was part of this project, or this project was actually included in the second of two certificate of authorities with the Public Service Commission. The clean energy blueprint, of course, is to add just over 1,089 megawatts of solar power generation in Wisconsin by the end of 2023. Part of that clean energy blueprint, of course, is the retirement of some aging coal-fired plants, one at Columbia, when they looked at the cost of operation and maintenance of those older generation facilities, they estimated it would be approximately about $2 billion over the course of 30 years. It's important to note that when we propose the 1,000 megawatts of solar, that there is a continued operation. There will be a suite of different types of power generation, not just solar, but also wind, hydro, biomass, and natural gas. It was important for us to point out also that when we submitted the applications to the Public Service Commission in the form of a certificate of authority, we are required to do a number of studies. And that list up there is an all-inclusive list of all of the reports and the studies that we are required to provide as the application filing requirements for a certificate of authority with the Public Service Commission. So as you can see, when you look down there, and these, of course, are all available for public review at the Public Service Commission's website. So Wautoma Solar Project at a glance. Once again, many people have seen this already. They're familiar with the pink and the brown areas, but I'll talk about them a little bit. Once again, we are mostly in the town of Dakota. The city of Wautoma is, the generation tie line is in the city of Wautoma. A small component of the project substation We hope to actually have that eventually in the city of Wautoma, annexed. The acreage, of course, like we heard before, is the developmental project area is 1,284 acres. At commercial operation, it's actually going to be 624 operational acres. The land cover is about 95% agricultural, which represents about 0.15% of Waushara County's agricultural lands. The setbacks have been defined by Waushara County, are all honored in court, in the zoning ordinance, and we will be standing by those. And additionally, the 250-foot setback to dwellings is actually quite a bit more than the Waushara County zoning ordinance setbacks. The construction timeline, of course, we're looking at is if everything is approved and the Public Service Commission approves it when we think they might, we would be looking to break ground probably Q2 of 2022. And our goal would be to be in service by late 2023. Oh, can you back up there once? For all the people that don't know about the pink and the brown, when you look at the project areas up there, let's see if I can get the project areas that are in pink, as you can see right here, and down here, and then the project areas in brown. The project areas in pink represent where conceptually our team, our design engineers have looked at it and felt those are the best opportunities to place primary panels. The Public Service Commission requires us to have 125% of land control. Therefore, we also have to have areas that are extra, and those are the areas that we have in brown. It doesn't necessarily mean what you're looking at right there is going to be that's our actual footprint. That's conceptually what we were thinking at this point in time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we won't be moving those arrays around to optimize. Perfect example, if we found an archaeological site that we for some reason had to move out of these blocks up here, we might move them down and use them and put primary panels at the airport. So it's important to note what you see there is the footprint, but it's not until we get further into the design. That's about it. We'll call it conceptual. Okay. A lot of people had questions about what the solar panels actually look like. The dimensions of a typical solar panel that we're going to be using are about 3 foot by 6 foot. As you can see in that photo, they are up on a racking system. These panels actually follow the sun from the east to the west during the day to maximize the solar efficiency or the solar power production. These panels produce actually power on cloudy days. That's important because that wasn't always the case 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. That wasn't the case. These are bifacial construction, monocrystalline structures. They are built mostly of silicone, aluminum, metal framing, and copper wiring. They will lose about 0.5% of efficiency per year. So over the course of 30 years, you're still looking at panels that are about 85% efficient. These will have an anti-glare and an anti-reflective coating on them. So I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is a visual simulation, a photo that our environmental consultant took. It's a view to the southwest along Highway 22. The Public Service Commission requires us to show what the area looks like before and what it looks like afterwards. So what they do is they take a picture before and then they do a visual model and place the solar panels in the photo. So this will give you an idea of what somebody is going to see when they drive along Highway 22. So if you go to the next slide. So that's what the panels visually simulated. In the front there, you'll see a fence line there, which is about 7 to 8 foot tall. Some people call it deer exclusion fencing. It's also called woven wire fencing. So the slots are about 5 inches by 6 inches approximately. It's what you would typically see on a interstate highway. So Wautoma Solar Waushara County CUP application timeline, we felt it was important to go through this to explain to everybody what we have been doing in the last couple of months since the first time we met. Of course, Wautoma, Alliant Energy, WP&L, we hosted our first Wautoma Solar Open House on June 8th, 2021, down in the demo room downstairs. Then we also participated in the town of Dakota open meeting on July 11th as a kind of an informal, it's a formal meeting, but we attended it not to make a presentation, but just to hear the dialogue. After that, of course, Waushara County, the CUP public hearing was held on July 15th, 2021. After that point, we went into a community outreach effort and did a couple of different things, as you can see on down there. We were invited by Tony Peterson, we were invited to the Crossroads Family Church on August 9th for a group Q&A session. Myself and Ben Tanko were there. We delivered thumb drives of the certificate of authority to the our application that's with the Public Service Commission right now. We put them on thumb drives and delivered them over to the City of Wautoma Public Library. We did that because we had heard that not everybody's got a computer at home, and we felt that was necessary to at least provide people a way of viewing the project information. The thumb drives also saved us 4,750 pages of printout. After that, WP&L Alliant Energy, we hosted at your request, at the board's request, an informational session on August 25th. That was down in the Waushara County demo room downstairs. Todd Waller was in attendance, and I think we had about 25 people. Yep. Stuck around for about an hour and a half after the presentation to get people's questions answered. We've also gone on a tour of the trout fisheries with Elwood Engel. I hope I got the name right. I hope his name is, we might have misspelled it, Elward, but I believe his name is Elwood. Okay, so I have it right. It's Elward. Bill and Elward actually went on a tour of the trout fisheries in the surrounding areas. And then on the same day, I actually went on a tour of the Southwest Array area with Doug Riley. And we also looked at the surrounding areas and talked about the project. And that was also on September 3rd. I did a presentation to the City of Wautoma Rotary Club on September 8th. And that brings us to today. So along the way, and in particular, when the first time we met in this boardroom here, there were obviously a number of questions that the citizens had. We collected up and put them on and discussed them internally. Right there, that list is not an all-inclusive list, but it is a list of the common theme concerns that the residents had. So when we presented at the informational session, pretty much the second half of the informational session was talking specifically about these, and we had several slides talking about each one of them. So upon that, coming out of the informational session, and after everything that we have learned from the residents, there are several things that we, of course, would like the board to consider, considerations by Waushara County to be added as conditions to the conditional use permit. The number one, probably the most primary, the biggest one, the most important one is we have heard many people talk about these solar panels being in their community. And we felt that it would be important and a great idea to provide visual buffers throughout the area. So one of the criteria we were looking at is if we can do visual buffers, install them for everybody that has a inhabited dwelling within 500 feet of one of the panel areas that doesn't already have a visual barrier already. So depending on, because there are an awful lot of visual barriers up here between where the panels are going to be and where the residents are. However, we're going to work with all of the landowners to determine that. This probably will be done around the time when we have the design a little bit further along, before we do the land use permit, of course. We would be we'd be working with all the landowners to determine whether there's going to be a visual buffer on their property line or on our side of the property line. And this is probably going to come to fruition probably when we get the design a little bit further along, late this year, spring of next year. Also important, along with the 500 feet, we were also talking about 650 feet from an inhabited dwelling to the project substation. Now, this is just a quick view of what we're thinking will the buffer plan will look like on paper. We plan on putting these together and supplying them in the land use permit that we would be putting together towards the beginning of construction. So we might have a number of these actually per, if we've got 20 residents, 20 visual buffers that we have to take care of, you'll see 20 renditions of this in the land use permit. Another condition, as we drove around with Doug Riley, it's very clear that there's quite a bit of existing visual buffers throughout the area. What we'll be doing as part of construction and as part of our pre-construction, and as part of our site visits with our landowners, we'll be looking at all the visual buffers that are currently in place on our side of the property line. Perfect example is up on 15th Avenue and 15th Drive down by the Southwest Array area. There's actually quite a bit of visual buffer on our side of the property line that we could use and keep in place. And of course, that will be supplemented with any kind of a visual barrier that the landowner would like to have along those areas. So that's another condition that we would be doing, which we would be using existing visual buffers to the extent practicable. Snowmobile trails. That was another common theme, concern that the snowmobile trails, of course, there are several in the area. If you actually go to the next slide, we can put that up and show. It's really hard to see here, but you've got some existing snowmobile trails that kind of go up through here. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. The green lines represent where there are actually current snowmobile trails, and the teal, I know green and teal are probably should have been color coded differently, are the areas that we're thinking that the solar or the snowmobile trails possibly would get rerouted. Now, once again, because we are still early, really early in design, we can't say exactly where these would be going. But the condition that we're hoping that will be part of the conditional use permit would be that we will be actively working with the snowmobile management leaders to make sure that we leave setbacks off of the property lines that you can safely drive snowmobiles through not through our array areas, but around our array areas. Once again, we won't be able to really talk about that with them until later on when we have a design a little bit further along. Go forward. Protecting the local trout fishery habitats. This is one of the bigger ones in my personal opinion. We've heard a lot of discussion from Elwood, many people from, several people from Fox Valley Trout Unlimited, Central Wisconsin Trout Unlimited, have all made comments about the importance of maintaining the integrity of the local trout fisheries. We've seen pictures. Bill Rosenau has showed us pictures. There's no doubt we're going to do everything we possibly can in terms of maintaining and keeping all of our construction and all of our setbacks, all of our mitigation measures in place through construction. One thing that's kind of important when we talk about local trout fishery habitats is in our opinion, when you take 624 acres of agriculture out of commission for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever it might be, you are greatly reducing the amount of impact from fertilizers and from weed control. Literally several thousand pounds of fertilizer per acre sometimes can be used on potato crops. We would like to think that by us removing 624 acres out of that equation, that your water quality in those areas will be actually improved. Slide. Road conditions. Alliant, of course, we want to ensure that the conditions of the local town and the county roads proposed to be used for the construction access will be restored to as good, if not better condition than the pre-construction baseline levels. So this is also a condition that we were thinking of that we would like to offer up to be as part of the conditional use permit. Our pre-construction conditions of the roads proposed as construction access roads would be determined to establish the road conditions baseline. And during construction, any road repairs would be done by the county. And Alliant Energy would reimburse the county for that work. And then finally, after the construction is done, we would go through that measure again to determine what the integrity of the roads are. The repairs would be made, and Alliant then would reimburse the county for that work. So really quickly, many people have seen this already, a few environmental benefits. We like to use the term harvesting the sun's energy. While that is going on as part of this project, we would be giving the agricultural soils a chance to rest. By means of replacing the fossil fuels with solar power, you improve Wisconsin's overall air quality. These numbers here, we added this since last slide. These are the avoided annual air emissions from coal-fired power generation for a 99 megawatt solar farm. And we have it in red here because that's a strikingly large number of 67 million pounds of carbon that would no longer be in the air because we would be replacing coal with solar. And then, of course, the last one right here, I talked about the increased surface water quality of the local creeks and the trout fisheries and the rivers and the lakes. So what does Wautoma Solar mean for the projects? Of course, we were talking about the number that always hits home with me is the 25,700 homes that would be powered by Wautoma Solar. That doesn't necessarily mean when you put this power out onto the transmission grid that it's going to be used in this town or even used in this county. We can't necessarily dictate where an electron goes once it's on the transmission grid. But on a hot sunny day, when everybody in the town of Waushara, in the town of Wautoma, city of Wautoma rather, is turned on with their air conditioners, you'd like to think that electron is going to find its way from the transmission grid to the distribution grid and be used in this neighborhood. Where, of course, the project's not consuming commercial or residentially zoned areas. And I think it's also important, very important, to realize that in terms of cost, solar power, as of about 10 years ago, became the most cost-effective way to produce electrical power in the United States. Also, what this means to the community, of course, with the state's shared revenue program that we are taking advantage of, the project will provide a local tax revenue, which would be an estimated annual total of about $396,000, which will be split between the town of Dakota and Waushara County. During construction, that would be about 12 to 14 months of on-site construction. The teams could be at a maximum about 100 to 200 workers per day at a maximum number. And each one of those people that are on site, of course, have a consumer needs. During operation, we'd be looking at about maybe 2 to 4 full-time employees, which results in some local contractor opportunities as well. So that is the end of that presentation. What I'd also like to do is I've got a list of, and I'll go through the questions and answers if you want me to go through, but what I'd actually first like to do is just go through the number of letters of support that we got for the project. We've got a letter of support from Tommy Bowler, the city administrator with the city of Wautoma, has provided support. We've got a number of them from local landowners. We've got one from, I might have his name, and Stephen Heuser, who is with Fox Valley Trout Unlimited, who is in support of the project as well. Dan Spurberg, Vice President and Training Director with the Operators Engineers Training Center. That's local in this area here. Also, Gerald Schumacher from the Construction and General Laborers Local Union number 330. We also got from Charles Sporer Jr. With the North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters. And then also Scott Polowski, who is with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the local union 577. And then we have a number of form letters that we received from landowners as well. So do you want me to give these to you here, or should I keep them till later?
I could take them here.
Okay.
With regard to the questions and answers, if you look in your packet, it should be in there. Kind of the blue questions and then black lined answers.
So at the end of our informational session, Todd came up to us and said, look, can you get together a list of questions that you heard tonight and how you responded to them? Because we thought that it was important to get that information to you so you could kind of get an idea of what we, how that informational meeting went. We thought it was very, very productive. At minimum, we educated quite a few individuals, and hopefully we thought it was very beneficial. The list that you're looking at is not all inclusive, but when we were done with the meeting, the next couple of days, we got everybody to provide the information back to us, and we have summarized it as best as we possibly can. So if you don't mind, I'll go through it one by one so the people can hear it. Question number one was general questions on decommissioning, timing and process. What is removed and what stays? Our answer was the work of decommissioning is estimated to take about 1 year once the solar site ceases operation. Everything that's 36 inches or shallower will be removed. The substation, however, will remain as the underground collector system, which will be buried deeper than 36 inches. Removing the underground cables will cause more disruption to the soil than leaving them in place. Next question, are there wetlands on site? And if so, what impacts are proposed? A total of 23 separate wetlands and are located within the project area, and every measure possible is being taken to avoid them. While 3 wetlands will be crossed for directional boring, HDD, for underground collector lines, the other 20 wetlands will not be impacted. And of the 3 crossed via directional boring during construction, no permanent impacts are proposed to the wetlands. There will be 1 wetland crossed with equipment during the construction of the generation tie line. This crossing will be done with the use of construction matting. Therefore, this is only considered a temporary impact to the wetland. Will the site utilize long-term stormwater management practices, and if so, which? Alliant Energy is required to submit an application known as the Notice of Intent to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources per Wisconsin Administrative Code, Chapter NR 216. As part of this application, WP&L will be required to develop and maintain a stormwater pollution prevention and erosion control plan. This plan will outline the stormwater best management practices that will be used during construction to control and enhance stormwater runoff prior to discharging to nearby waterways. The best management practices that will be used to perform this function may consist of, but are not limited to, silt fence, vegetated drainage swales, sediment traps, and sediment basins. The issuance of the construction permit by the DNR will ensure compliance with applicable stormwater standards as part of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention and Erosion Control Plan Alliant Energy's contractor must inspect the best management practices at least weekly and maintain a log of inspections for DNR audits. Once a solar site is constructed and Alliant has met the obligations of the construction permit, Alliant will terminate the permit and follow the site-specific vegetation management plan to ensure stormwater quality is being properly managed. Alliant personnel and contractors will periodically inspect the site for vegetation and repair any erosion control or erosional concerns that may be caused by a large storm event. What state and federal environmental permits are anticipated to be required? Temporary wetland impacts for the project will likely be permitted through the Army Corps of Engineers under Nationwide Permit 51, which is known as the Land-Based Renewable Energy Generation Facilities, and through the General Utility Permit number 3 for the DNR. In addition, WPNL will be required to submit an application known as the Notice of Intent to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources per the Wisconsin Administrative Code, Chapter 216, as I already mentioned. What will be planted under the arrays and how will it be managed? This vegetation the vegetation planted within the project area will be managed primarily through mowing regimens. These mowing activities will be scheduled to control the establishment of invasive species. Although mowing will be the primary method of management, spot treatment of invasive species outbreaks with the use of herbicides may be necessary from time to time. However, the frequency and application rates will be much less than that currently applied to the project area under agricultural uses. In addition, there will be no need to make the fertilizer applications to the project area that are currently happening under agricultural uses. This means that vegetation management for the project will improve surface water and groundwater quality, so important to the local trout fishery. Taken from WPNL's environmental manager Bill Skalitsky's testimony, the majority of the area for each of the sub 100 megawatt projects is in agricultural production. After construction is complete, WPNL will restore the project site and implement a site-specific long-term vegetation management plan. In contrast to current agricultural activities, which expose large soil surfaces to both surface water and wind erosion, each project site will remain vegetated for the project's expected useful life. When the participating parcels at each project are vegetated, rainfall infiltration will increase, which benefits overall groundwater quality. Moreover, vegetative cover will limit soil erosion due to water and wind. This will decrease potential sediment and nutrient loading in nearby waterways and benefit overall surface water quality, which likewise improves recreational opportunities on nearby waters. As a post-informational session follow-up to this question, Brian Karczewski by now, of Stantec Environmental, WPNL's environmental consultant, indicates most of the area within the fence line for each solar panel area will be planted with a mixture of perennial native and non-native grasses and forbs. In addition, WPNL has promised to vegetate up to 9% of the project area with a mixture of pollinator-friendly plant species in order to improve habitat for a variety of invertebrate species, most notable of which include the Carner blue butterfly and the monarch butterfly. Have other sites been considered? If so, why was this site selected? There are a variety of factors that WPNL looks for when developing a solar project. One of the most critical items is to be close to an electrical transmission line that has available electrical capacity. This is needed to keep the project transmission upgrade costs low, therefore keeping overall project costs lower. The following items are weighted more evenly when considering a project site. Additional items that are considered when selecting the project site include participating landowners with sufficient land to support the project's desired capacity, suitable land with relatively low variations in topography, minimal wetlands, and clear of environmentally constrained areas, and lastly, the land must be correctly zoned. What will happen to the site, to the on-site drain tile once developed? WPNL will work with the landowners to understand what records they have on existing drain tile. During construction, care will be taken to avoid damage to the previously installed drain tile or reroute drain tile away from locations which could be damaged during construction. If pattern drain tile networks are present, WPNL will work with applicable landowners to establish acceptable criteria for rerouting, replacing it, or abandoning in place drain tile that is within the PV array areas. Critical tiles determined to be damaged by construction activity will be repaired, or if necessary, relocated as required by the conditions and location of the damaged tile. Communication with the participating landowners will be maintained to ensure their satisfaction. If drain tile is damaged, cut or removed because of the trenching, it will be repaired or replaced depending on structural conditions. WPNL will make efforts to complete permanent tile repairs within a reasonable time frame accounting for weather and soil conditions. Additionally, then taken from WPNL's environmental manager Bill Skalitsky's testimony for WPNL, which WPNL would like to add to the record. If and when the commission authorizes construction of the sub 100 megawatt projects, WPNL will continue coordinating with participating landowners and will contact a professional drainage tile company to locate, to the extent practicable, all drainage tiles within the project boundaries. WPNL will attempt to refine the project layout, if necessary, to avoid impacts to the existing drainage system, although some impacts may be unavoidable. And then there was actually as a post-informational session follow-up to this question, WPNL's real estate agent with Land Services, Inc., he's not here tonight, has actually confirmed that there is no known drain tile on any of the project properties. What opportunities are there to be more involved as an organization? WPNL encourages productive conversations with the community and local organizations regarding, including the Trout Unlimited chapter. We probably should have also mentioned the Central Wisconsin Trout Unlimited chapter as well, to discuss any aspects of the project. And so for more information, people can reach out to contact Chase Coleman, who's back here behind me. His email address is there to schedule a meeting with Chase and all the applicable people, the subject matter experts. Regarding the trout streams, the unlimited trout individuals had the following concerns. What are the potential thermal impacts from stormwater retention ponds during construction or once stabilized? WPNL is working on the stormwater management design for runoff during construction, and once the project is operational. WPNL plans to establish vegetation as they construct the project in order to increase rainfall infiltration. This is very similar to what the company is doing with Wood County Solar. As a post-informational session follow-up to this question, WPNL states, once the solar site is operational, the vegetation within and outside of the solar array will increase stormwater infiltration as stormwater moves through the array and onto the neighboring parcel vegetation. Based on this, WPNL does not expect any thermal impacts from the solar operations when compared to current land management practices. Boring under the stream, I apologize, this is a statement, not a question, but directional boring under the stream is the least invasive way to cross the streams and is an acceptable method by the DNR of crossing wetlands and waterways. The DNR does not currently have an HDD technical standard. There isn't a set depth to be below the bed or a waterway. However, it is generally greater than 36 inches. Will any of the shared revenue going to the town or the county be allocated to the fire department? The answer was the town and the county have full discretion on how the shared revenues will be used locally. Can WPNL move blocks A2, A4, and A5 as they disrupt the landowner's livelihood? The answer was Alliant Energy's EPC will look to optimize the panel layouts in order to maximize the land and array power efficiencies. Those blocks A2, A4, and A5, of course, are up in the north, what would be the northwest corner of the project. Alliant Energy's EPC will look, how wide is the gap between the fences of A5 and B6, as that gap will impact deer patterns from the bedding to the feeding areas? Is there a fence on either end? The two fences will be nearly about 100 feet apart. It is well known that deer are very adaptable, and given the gap, they will likely use it and become more predictable in their patterns from bedding to feeding areas. During the informational meeting, we actually thought that was a 50-foot wide stretch. It's about 97 feet. Would WP&L consider instead using potentially available land that they know of to the east of the alternate array areas E3 through E6? E3 through E6 are on what would be the east side of State Highway 22. So this person is asking if there's actually land beyond that could be considered. It's in its certificate of authority application that was filed with the Public Service Commission in March of 2021. WP&L included all the developmental project parcels and the environmental and engineering studies within the project footprint. The company believes that the current proposal best uses the available land and allows the company to construct a cost-effective project that will deliver the 99 megawatts of energy. Will the visual buffers on their land, or will the visual buffers be on their land or our land? This individual expects the visual buffers to be on the project land. WP&L will work with the landowners to site the visual buffers either on the non-participating landowner's property or the project lands. If it's agreed that the visual buffers will be on the non-participating landowner's side of the property line, WP&L and the landowners will agree on the plan and the cost of the visual buffers and associated plantings. How far below the streams will your bores be? WP&L informed the individual that the DNR would be dictating the minimum gap from the hard pan down to our bore. Will the bores below stream be capped or filled? The person was worried about contamination through the bore. WP&L informed the individual that at a bare minimum, the ends will be capped. The requirements to incorporate any grout material to fill the conduit would be determined through the DNR's best management practices and adherence to the construction and the post-construction performance standards set for in Wisconsin Administrative Codes, chapters 151 and 216. Lots of concern about the hilled area on the south end of the project, otherwise known as the southwest array area. Concern that we are going to, at a minimum, cover it with PV modules, most probable, and or if we'd be cutting it down to make it flatter for PV modules installation. We put there what we weren't quite sure what the question was. What our answer was, the hilled area will not automatically be cut down. That the maximum slope of 7% of the trackers from one end to the other running northwest can be put on hills that slope east to west. What percentage of Alliant Energy's power generation will be from renewables? As of 2020, approximately 34% of Alliant Energy's power generation was from renewable sources, including wind, solar, and hydroelectric. And by 2030, the company projects that that will increase to approximately 53%. Almost done. Does the project need to have, well, there were a lot of questions, obviously, a lot of questions by the people. Does the project need to have a 7 to 8 foot high perimeter fence around the solar arrays? Yes. It has to be part of the project because it's required by the National Electric Safety Code. The PSC is requiring similar types of fencing on all of our solar projects in the state. Will this perimeter fence cause disruption to the white-tailed deer in the area? Perimeter fencing is designed to exclude larger mammals such as deer and coyotes that could potentially damage the facility from accessing array areas and will deny access to previously available foraging areas for white-tailed deer. However, given that the project will site panels primarily on agricultural areas and there is ample farmed areas surrounding the project area, no significant impact to the deer population is anticipated due to the fact that white-tailed deer represent one of the most adaptable species within Wisconsin. And below, there's one final question within the Waushara County Board. I believe it was you that asked a question at our first meeting here about will the panels and the associated perimeter fencing cause a concern for additional deer crossings on State Highway 21? Alliant does not anticipate any increase or decrease in deer crossings along its shared section of State Highway 21 as a result of the project. Deer, of course, prefer to travel along tree lines that provide cover. There are 2 existing tree lines, natural cover areas located immediately to the east and to the west of the solar panel arrays that shares its northern boundary with State Highway 21. These corridors provide the current most likely crossing locations of State Highway 21 within its immediate area. It's anticipated that the placement of these PV arrays between these locations will not significantly change the crossing patterns of the deer. And that is all I have. And if you've got questions for me, I will be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I might actually have to defer to some of my team members.
Any questions,
I believe-
gentlemen?
I have a question. I might have missed it on the PowerPoint or whatever, but you talked about repairing of the roads during building and after the building, but how about decommissioning? Oh, do you have plans to come back through and repair the road then as well?
I can't imagine that we would not. That's an excellent question because that's the first time that's come up, and I believe the answer would be absolutely yes. So whatever we just proposed, and maybe that should be part of the conditions, whatever we just proposed in terms of road condition repairs would also be included as part of decommissioning as well.
And
Because that would,
and if I could, that's actually in your decommissioning plan, which they are also going to have to post a bond, for
Okay.
that. And I did talk to Brian Frymark, the condition that's in the report, should this go forward. I did talk to Brian, just wanted him to make sure, look it over, that he was comfortable with it. And he was very comfortable with the condition as it's stated in the report.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? John? Pat? Mike? I have just one. It may have been asked somewhere along the line, but I didn't see it or forgot it or whatever. I'm on the fire committee for the Watoma Fire Department. Well, how would you address these plants and that they're going to die over winter? And there's a lot of vegetation left there. What happens if a lightning strike or something causes the whole thing to go up in flames? What do you have set aside to control that or to reimburse the fire department for the fire suppression? DNR does pay a stipend to the fire departments for helping fight wildfires. Would you be acceptable or doable for something like that? Should it ever happen?
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yes.
$100,000 in time and material and they lose a pumper or lose something out there. Are you willing to foot the bill for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And then are you also prepared to equip the Watoma Area Fire Department with any protective gear that they may need to fight this fire? I don't know what's in there. You got a lot of terms up there, but I'm not a chemist or a scientist. I don't know if that's toxic or non-toxic, is it?
We had actually put together and we might not have provided it, and we certainly can. We actually have a handout, several pages that talk about fire emergencies associated with solar panels. It's got some really good links. We typically provide it to the emergency management teams in the area. And our development team, we give it to them. It's not mentioned as a health and safety plan. It's a beginning to a health and safety plan. And what we expect is that the contractors that are going to be building in our EPC will work with the fire departments and the local emergency crews to create a construction health and safety plan based on the solar fire emergency procedures. And then eventually, when it becomes an operational project, there will be an on-site health and safety plan that is also specifies how to take care of a solar fire. So that would be in the works. We don't have that information with us. We can provide that. Once again, it's meant as informational. It's not meant as a health and safety plan, but it's the beginnings of having those discussions with the fire department and the local EMF.
And what exactly is your time frame on this project? I mean, you came questions, we delayed it for a couple of months to get questions answered. I believe some of those have been answered. I don't know if they all have. We've got the audience. There may be some new ones that pop up. What are you looking at? A month, 10 months, 2 years?
Oh, right now we are expecting that the Public Service Commission will vote on and make a decision on this project along with the other projects we've got as part of that certificate of authority, maybe about March of next year. So we would be looking to break ground 2 months after that, maybe 3 months after that. And we've staggered the projects. I don't know where this one fits into the April 15th. So
There were any other questions they would be answered before then?
absolutely. Yeah, we are.
I don't know what's out there. There's a lot of people. Hopefully they aren't all sleeping yet. We can get their questions answered if
That
there
was
aren't
not
too
by
many
design.
repetition questions.
Yeah.
So
We are
Or-
prepared for the people that have got questions tonight. We've got a crew of subject matter experts and we'll be here all night. And if we have to get everybody's questions answered.
I guess if you presented what you had to and the committee has no questions, we will go on to the correspondence.
Okay.
You can take a seat for now.
We did receive a packet. It's a form letter signed by several individuals. It's not that long. I'm just going to read into the record the form letter and then just read the names of those that signed it. Dear Planning and Zoning Committee, as a resident of the Wautoma area and citizen of the greater Waushara County community, I am writing in support of the Wautoma Solar Project proposed by Alliant Energy. Over the life of the Wautoma Solar Project, Alliant Energy estimates approximately $12 million in additional revenue for our community. This is money that can be used to enhance our local roads, schools, and other community services. In addition, the project will create hundreds of construction jobs and opportunities for local businesses and contractors, generating an economic boost for our community. Solar is an increasingly affordable option and is more cost-effective than maintaining traditional energy resources like coal. The time is now to transition to cheaper and cleaner energy for the economic and environmental health of our community for decades to come. Thank you for considering my comments. Sincerely, Gail Bacon, Jeffrey Rofe, Grant Wandry, Vicky Wandry, William Rosenau, Adam, and I'm going to make a best guess at this, Borholtz, Dale Wandry, Carrie Schmidt, Wayne Romer, Karen Sheely, Dan Sheely, and Paul Sleeth. That's all I have for correspondence.
All right. Here comes the part you're all waiting for. Anyone in favor to speak may now come up and speak.
Have several registrants both to speak in favor and then some also registered only in favor but wishing not to speak. So we're going to start with those wishing to speak in favor. Tommy Bowler.
Thank you, Chairman Wadel and members of this committee. I'm Tommy Bowler. I'm the city administrator for the city of Wautoma. And I have a prepared statement that was published in this week's Waushara Argus that I'm going to read. To the residents of Wautoma and those across Waushara County, Alliant Energy has proposed a 624-acre solar farm located within Waushara County, which would provide enough energy to power over 25,000 homes. Despite rumors that they cause health issues or harm the environment, solar panels are the safest, most cost-effective way to produce power in the world. They are located in every state and have been around for decades. The anticipated project would not only infuse this area financially, but it would allow Waushara County to harvest renewable energy from its own backyard. This could include locating some of the panels on the Wautoma Municipal Airport farmland. The Wautoma Common Council approved an agreement to utilize roughly 120 acres at the airport, not affecting its current operations in any way. The excess acreage is presently being farmed as dry land due to limitations from the airport runway layout, preventing irrigation opportunities and causing the city to lease it for $50 an acre. In addition to eliminating the barriers of farm operations, an agreement with Alliant Energy, if the panels were to be approved and the area selected, would bring dramatically increased revenue for a 30-year period with absolutely no cost to taxpayers. What does this mean for residents in Wautoma and those across Waushara County? The solar lease would be a catalyst for several projects over the next 3 decades that would otherwise be paid with tax dollars. This rare opportunity enables the city to do significant improvements without raising taxes, a game changer for anyone who uses Wautoma services. It would allow the city to protect its police force with newer equipment, provide revenue to enhance the beautiful park system, and supply the city with resources to boost even more infrastructure projects. Better roads, utility systems, trails, and sidewalks are not only vital to the quality of life in Wautoma, but pivotal for economic development and enrichment of the business community. Progress doesn't always come in the form of perfection. The panels will certainly look different than a field used for common types of farming. But this isn't the first solar farm to be built in this country. The communities and elected bodies around Waushara County should weigh the total benefits against the fact-based risks in order to make an educated, accurate decision. In the case for Wautoma, there's a clear and obvious opportunity. Rural areas throughout the United States continue to face population decline and are forced to do more with less each year. Wautoma is a hardworking, blue-collar place where the hardships of residents are not only understood by its elected leaders, but are shared with them. Possibilities like a partnership with Alliant Energy would add more certainty in the plan to protect all the reasons why residents and visitors alike love our small community, not just for themselves, but for future generations growing up here. Thank you.
Paul Jarvis.
Thanks, committee, for having this meeting tonight and let me talk. Our family currently farms one of the fields that is being considered for the solar project, and that field will be much better served being in solar panels than being farmed. It's not exactly the most ideal piece of agricultural ground in the county. And also another point that's brought up between myself and some of my colleagues, other farmers in the area, was probably 3-4 years ago, the continual letters in the Argus about high capacity wells and the issues. I believe, I don't know what is on the Bacon farm for wells, but I believe that this project goes through, this will stop the pumping from 7, possibly 8 wells in the area. So if you believe the science behind what, you know, that group of people was pushing, this would be a good thing for the area on that. Also, that field, you know, if we continue to farm it, you know, like the guys from Alliant pointed out, at some point it will be potatoes and it will go into our manure plan here that we have started using. And so I think overall, with the way that ground is out there in that side of the county in the area, I believe that solar panels would be the best thing for that ground to have grass on it, pollinator habitat, and it being left alone. I think it'll be better for the area than what is currently going on. So thank you.
Russ Brown.
Thank you, Chairman Weddle and committee members. I also speak in favor of the project for all the benefits that were laid out by Alliant Energy. I think the idea of 10 times the local property taxes is a big win for our community. I especially like the fact that they don't pollute. They have no water use. They will improve air quality and they will improve the water quality in the area here. I also like the fact that we have native plantings that will go underneath it, and that will provide habitat for native birds and wildlife. It'll regenerate the soil. I think the farmer here that spoke and said, you know, our soils are pretty thin here, and the amount of nitrogen that we need to add to these soils generally ends up in our water table. So less fertilizer is a good plus, and I think he knows the soil best since he farms it. The trout fisheries, the improvement to them by not having these chemicals run into our streams will help, will improve that and help with our tourism that we have in the area here. Solar panels are safe, they're clean, they're quiet. They will provide some jobs during the construction here, which would be great for our local community, for our builders. Those contractors, when they build, they also stay and spend money while they're here. So that year of construction will help our hotels, our restaurants, and so on. There'll be a few jobs afterwards, which probably will equate to what the time the farmer spends on that field putting in crops. With the extra money, I'm thinking maybe we could buy some F-150 Lightnings. They're electric trucks that are coming out by Ford next year, and I think the Public Works will like that. And I think we can also buy some Mustang Mach-E's for the police department. Thank you.
Daniel Spurberg.
Thank you, Chairman Wendell, committee members. As director of Local 139's Training Center, I'm speaking in behalf of this project that Alliant Energy is proposing. The Wautoma Solar Project would create hundreds of construction jobs, relying on local union labor. Carpenters, operators, electricians, and laborers will be called out during the course of this construction project. This project will provide job security for local union workers and even create job opportunities for local residents looking for work. Furthermore, the construction of the Wautoma project would act as an economic stimulus for local businesses and contractors, generating much needed community boost for the community. The techniques that they described for doing this, the directional boring, the installing truly of the pile, the clearing of the property, is all done by the operating engineers on existing projects right now in the state of Wisconsin. Local 139 has a long relationship with this area, with our state-of-the-art training center in Coloma. Every year we bring thousands of members through the training center to help better serve our contractors and projects. We have a great relationship and bring much revenue in the community. In addition, over the life of this solar project, Alliant Energy estimates millions of dollars of additional revenue for the community. This money can be used for enhancing our local roads, schools, and serve our communities. Solar is an increasing affordable option and is more cost effective than maintaining traditional energy resources like coal. The time is now for transitioning cheap, cleaner energy. Thank you for considering my comments regarding this project. Dan Spurberg, Training Director.
Travis Martzel, sorry.
Yes, Chairman and committee members, thank you tonight for hearing us. I'm speaking in favor of this position, this project. I represent the operating engineers, men and women, through 4 counties: Waushara, Waupaca, Outagamie, and Winnebago. And I guess what I want to lay out for you is the fact of what my co-partner here, Daniel Spurberg, our training center, it trains some of the best and is the best training in the country. Currently, right now, we have numerous members, my brother being one of them, actually working on a solar panel or a solar project not too far away from here. Our members are obviously men and women, mother, father, child, children, aunts and uncles that are committed to giving an efficient, done under budget, on time, and that's what they're going to deliver for you. Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, the other thing is too is the gentleman up here talked about the involvement of the local community and what they do economically. So with this involvement, when this project starts, they spend locally. They spend at your local taverns, your restaurants, your family run motels, and they're definitely going to impact you in a great way. So I hope that you vote in favor of this, and I thank you for your time.
All right, I've got a few people here registered only in favor but wishing not to speak. William Rosenau, Chuck Patzer, and Bob Kayer. You want me to go over to those objecting? All right. I've got a number of individuals wishing to speak in opposition. The first, Robert Semro. Do you want me to get that down? Oh, there you
We'll get it when we get at it.
go.
I'm bringing I guess, a lot of history and what this is really the thing that we should be looking at. I'm bringing 151 years of residency history to this meeting tonight. That the family has been, I'm the third generation on this farm, and I'm over the 8 decades of time on it myself. And what I'm looking at is why we're spending all this money and that to put in solar when we've left all of this electric. Just go down the river, I could name 25 generating places that just been left. And when those were created in their day, they've also created double use. They've made lake frontage for people, brought our tax rate up, recreation area for people and whatever. And the recreation is going to get hurt by the solar panels because we're going to lose a lot of ag land. And I've been involved with agriculture because of being involved with the farms all these years. And our area around here is not saturated with the irrigated farms. So we do have a ample water supply, which we do not have any problem with, like a lot of areas are. And what's really happening is our areas are getting hit a lot harder for food demand because we do have water, we do have land, and we're a northern tier of states, but we are very high in the food source for our nation. We have dairy products, we have animal, we have and vegetable crops. Well, one of the fields that's going into solar panels right now has the potential of growing about 20 different vegetable crops on it. And what's going to happen is we're going to start looking for extra food sources, and they're going to start taking away other forest land, which uses up our carbon dioxide. Again, because we'd already have taken this out. And it also shows that agriculture over the last 4 years has dropped 12.5% on their carbon dioxide on reports I see out of the Kansas, Nebraska, and Minnesota, or South Dakota's universities, what they have done on studies by rotational grazing, food supply from that. And when we start trying to substitute our animal industry, in a lot of places we're bringing the carbon dioxide up, not down, but we're turning the ground over and we're letting the carbon dioxide out of the soils and that. So we're actually taking one thing, and we have all of this generation stuff just sitting there. The plants are still there, the lakes are there. And now we're going to end up spending we're going to end up into the billions for a project like this. That water runs 24/7. There's power there all the time. The sun don't shine all the time to give us power. I'm not against solar, but also I'm looking at the usage of our good ag land. I helped a person clear land for 6 years with heavy equipment, and I see where a lot of land that was into something else had to be come back in, or we haven't got food to feed our people and whatever. And these lakes also, they served recreation, they served, a lot of them did good fishing and that. We can go down to Harrisville Pond and they're pulling fish out of there all year round. And it's also a tax base. I'm not against solar, but I don't like to see our beautiful ag land going just to sit there for something like this, and it's going to disturb a lot of our other things that are going on. And I kind of hate to see what it's doing to a lot of people's health and stuff also because of the stress and the putting neighbors against neighbors, which is something that whatever else is all going on in higher echelons of government than what our state and local is. That on the local level, we have to work together, use the resources we got instead of throwing a whole bunch of something in there. And
Can
we're not,
we speed it up a little bit? We got a lot of people yet, Bob.
okay. And I say that there's a lot of things in there. So until all of the things can be studied, this would be nice if this would be tabled about 6 months or until next spring before we start looking at doing something about it.
Thank you.
Okay, next registrant is Mark Homschild.
Hello, I live on N1762 15th Drive. This proposed 1,283.5 acres of 317,356 solar panels are going to be out my front window, out my living room window. Not sure on the setbacks yet. I guess they're discussing those yet, but I have many concerns. One is the 1.5 to 2 year construction project with 100 and 200 workers in my neighborhood. All the removal of the topsoil, and then they're going to regrade it and put the topsoil back down, I guess, and these permanent access roads are going to be installed. If you look at the 111-page pamphlet that's on the website, they talk about permanent access roads and temporary access roads. So when you do that much destruction to the topsoil, you worry when this project is over with, what's going to be there. If I was a landowner, I'd be worried about that. You also worry about the change in the landscape. The agricultural land is true, like Mr. Jarvis said, that one field, he's disking out there, all I can hear is rocks and everything else he's hitting out there. But the ag land, we're losing 175 acres an hour to development. So it's really hard for me, and I'm also a farmer that grew up on a dairy farm, that it's hard to see that ag land go down the tubes. I'm also worried about the wildlife habitat. There's so much wildlife out there. It's unbelievable. I lived there for 30 years and totally enjoyed every minute of it. And that's why I'm still there. Deer hunt right there. You can turkey hunt, duck hunt, take your pick. They're all of it is right there. So I'm really worried about that. Like I said, there is 23 wetlands that are involved in this project. 4 of them will be impacted, like Andy said. We also looked up if there's any endangered resources or any of the cultural things, and the reports were online. Most of the items that you kind of wanted to know were all blacked out. And we asked them that, and they said that was because they didn't want people going and looking for these items out there. So that's why they had these things backed out, which, you know, I guess you understand a little bit, but it wasn't very informative for the rest of us. And then my other consideration is the solar power. I looked up just a couple charts online. Solar power was on the bottom of the 6 different ones. Hydropower is on there, natural gas is on there. Solar power capacity factor on this chart from 2019 is 10 to 25%. That's all they give that. Up here in the upper Midwest, it is not as effective as Mr. Semro said. The sunlight is not real prevalent up here, as you guys know, and we have a lot of darkness. So that also concerns me. So maybe there's some other options that's possibly out there that maybe Alliant could employ there. So I guess it's up to you gentlemen. I know you have goals and responsibilities to the landowners and their rights, but you also have responsibility to the neighbors and our property values. And I believe you have also responsibility to the natural resources and the beauty of this county, which I think we all take for granted. As you're younger, you don't really appreciate that, but as you get older, things like that mean a lot more. At least they do to me. So these decisions that you guys are going to be making and everybody else is going to affect generations. And if I was the landowner, I would really be worried as to what shape that land will be in. Maybe I won't be around, but maybe the next generation will have after that. So thank you for your attention.
Maxine Jeanette.
My concern is for the geese and cranes and deer. The hill is where they all go and have for many years. There's thousands of them that, especially in the spring and the fall, seeing them lose their so-called playground would not be good. It would be like taking away our front yard or our parks. There isn't any of them that can complain that they want to keep the hill as is. So I am doing what I can for them as I listen to them every day. I also lost the sale of a piece of land because of it. For this meeting, it was too early to get something on tape for you to see and hear them. We only have a video about the time they were getting ready to go last November. This video isn't even close to what we see and hear, but can give you an idea. This is the hill. Where the red arrow is on the map.
Julie Eager.
Thank you for letting me speak. I didn't become aware of the solar farm project until my mom mentioned to me that the buyer for her land backed out when he learned that the solar farm was set to go through. It was a sale lost, a fact. Solar farms do affect the sale of property. This could have happened to anyone who lives in an area like my mom. What I've noticed is that when I mention it to people, they won't look me in the eye. And I believe the reason is they're glad it's her and not them. I also believe this arena is too new for this kind of area for there to be conclusive studies on the long-term environmental impact. My concern is that the solar farm might compromise our environment, causing permanent, irreversible damage if the proposed project is not a good fit for this area. I've spent time at the headwaters Lunch Creek. I know what it looks like in the area where Silver Brook flows through. You can see the trout in the stream. A stream cold enough to support self-producing trout, cold enough in the summer and warm enough in the winter, which is what the trout need to survive. In the winter, the water is warm enough that watercress can grow. Have you ever seen watercress growing up through the snow at the edge of a sparkling brook? The green against the white? It's magical. And it's right here, right down the road, water that is nearly drinkable from a stream. I'm concerned something like a solar farm might harm in some unforeseeable way with no way to turn back or no amount of money can change the streams and or violate the Clean Water Act recently renewed by President Biden. So far, no one yet has answered the question of whether it will hurt these pristine waters for sure or not. I want to be clear, there is a small group of residents that see this as a possible tragedy if it's not a good fit for the land, water, wildlife, and recreational use. I'm not against renewable energy. I just want to make sure that it's not an irresponsible decision that is being made without sufficient studies and what the long-term impact might be for this community. Also, as a small business owner, someone brought it to my attention that this is an independent outfit that will be collecting 29% of taxpayer money to fund their private business with plans to raise the electric rate. I'm wondering, is this true?
I don't know.
Does anybody know? At a group meeting?
And was it a person there that?
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Tony Peterson?
Gentlemen, I'm Tony Peterson. I live on 15th Avenue at 1701. I'm going to be directly in sight of these things, and I don't particularly like it, to be honest with you. I guess my concern is that we've got buffers and barriers, and we've heard all kinds of stuff like this that's presented that they're going to do. Well, I don't get a building permit until I have a blueprint for the house. So what I'm asking is that you read it into your approval of, if you go forward with this, that in fact they have a licensed landscaper meet with the landowners to agree on whatever the buffer zone will be, since we're the ones affected. I think that's reasonable. I think the farmers have done a reasonable job with taking care of the fields for many years. We haven't had any trouble with the farmers in Waushara County polluting the groundwater or affecting the trout streams. We hear from Alliant, they're not sure. We're not sure. We don't know. Need some kind of assurance. Set the backstops or the setbacks further than what they have proposed. Whatever that is, if they propose in 500, make it 1,000. What will it hurt? Won't hurt anything. It provides safety for the fish, for you, for me, for Alliant. They all get the same benefit. It's protection. Farmers do a good job of it. We haven't had any troubles. They've been pumping out of them wells for years. Nobody's running short of water in Waushara County. So whether they rest or get used, I don't think that's a big argument. So I would ask you again, please consider the setbacks much greater than what they're proposing, because it's for safety of the wildlife and you and I. I don't think that's out of line, because they can't definitely answer the question, right? It's a lot of I don't knows, too new, though I hear it's been around for decades. So there's no place to get rid of the solar panels except for a handful of places. In 30 years, they hope there'll be more. I hope so too. Otherwise, they'll be like the windmills piling up. Then what are we going to do with those? I don't want them piled in my backyard either. I don't think you'd allow it in Waushara County if we piled them up there. You wouldn't like it. I don't like it. I'm just asking for a little consideration for some safety buffer zones from a licensed landscaper before you give them their permit to go ahead. It won't hurt anything to table it. They said they're only going to lose a few percentage of taxpayers' dollars. I don't care if you take it out of this pocket, it's still my money. Taxpayers' money is my money. I paid it in. I want to see it get used well, because that's responsible. And if Wautoma, the city, likes it so well, get it moved back onto the airport on often D5, 6, 7, and 8, where in fact you have 14 people living there. There's no one around the airport in Wautoma. Put it back there. That's a good spot for it. City of Wautoma wants it. Give it to them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Edna Riley.
Live at N1699 15th Avenue, and those solar panels are going to be right beside my home. If they're going to go there, which I'm sure they're going to, because I've seen a lot of activity there, I would like a buffer put up before it starts so I don't have to listen to their stuff out there. And I would like to know where the man at the meeting compared the microwave and the TV and the cell phone to the panels. Well, I want him to know my husband doesn't sleep in front of any of those appliances 24/7, which we'll live with a panel outside of our home 24/7. Thank you.
Gordon Seafelt.
My name's Gordon Seafeld. I live on Witter Lake. And this is a prepared statement from the Concerned Citizens Committee. Regardless of the outcome of this meeting and the decision by the zoning board and/or the Public Service Commission,
The Concerned Citizens Committee respectfully submits the following recommendations. We seek to have these conditions entered into the record to be applied to this solar panel project in the town of Dakota and any future renewable energy project in Waushara County. Now, some of these items seem repetitive, but we feel they need to be reemphasized and focused on. Number one, the natural and native trees and shrubs to be used as a visual barrier to prevent the solar project from being seen from public roads and inhabited dwellings. Number two, annual water quality testing to be done on streams and other waters which Trout Unlimited deems necessary. Testing will be paid for by Alliant Energy and shall be done in conjunction with and cooperation of Trout Unlimited. Number three, radiation detectors shall be installed on the properties of the people living next to or near the solar panel project. Residents will have the option to have the detectors installed or not. Residents will be educated on how to read and interpret the detector information. Number four, there shall be a 1,000-foot setback between inhabited dwellings and the outer edges of the solar panel project. Number five, berms 12-foot high in height of man-made materials such as concrete blocks to be constructed around the substations servicing the above-mentioned project. Number six, once a year, Alliant will present to the zoning board the results of the water quality tests, as well as any reports of accidents, vandalism, safety violations, and radiation levels. A summary of this annual report could be published in the Waushara Argus paid for by Alliant Energy. We believe that these conditions should be adopted and agreed to before any final approval is granted by the zoning board. Thank you for listening and thank you for your cooperation, the Concerned Citizens Committee.
Elaine Wadel.
Okay, property at W9297 State Road 21. And first of all, I have a petition to block the proposed 99 megawatt solar facilities that was turned into me after the July 15th meeting, if I could present that. This solar project is going to surround our properties on the west side and the south side, and also partially on the east side. And I do have a list of conditions that I'd like to have in the record concerning this. That's parcel specific to our parcels. I have 8 of them if you would like me to read them, or can they just be written into the record from the copies?
Go ahead.
Okay, the first one.
It's already getting late, but go ahead.
First is to relocate the proposed A2, 4, and 5 to an alternate site, which is the preferred if this use permit is granted. We'd like these in the record. If item 1 cannot be accomplished, the setback of item A2 to be increased to 500 feet from the western boundary line of the parcel 8-522-0200, and that the setback be planted with native upland grass species. Item 3, number 3 is if item 1 cannot be accomplished, the setback between proposed areas A2, 4, and 5 and parcels 8-522 0.0100 and 8-523.0000 be increased to 150 feet and the setback be planted with native upland grass species. The setback between proposed area B7 and parcels 8-523 .0000 be increased to 150 feet and the setback be planted with native upland grass species. The existing hedgerow, number 5, the existing hedgerow and fence line to be enhanced, providing a complete visual barrier between A2 and parcel 8-522.0200 with vegetation species of the landowner's discretion and will continue to provide exclusion in the fall and winter months. Number 6, for the existing hedgerow and fence line to be enhanced with native of a variety of deciduous, hardwood, and conifer evergreen trees between A2, 4, 5, and B7 and parcels 8-522.0100 and 8-523.0000 to serve as windbreak and erosion control. Control of all noxious, number 7, control of all noxious weeds within the project area, including panel area and setbacks to include but not limited to all knapweed species, all thistle species, goat beard or salsify, and water hemp. Number 8, notice be given to landowner of parcels 8-522.0100 and 8-523.0000 prior to any chemical weed control practices. These recommended provisions are parcel specific. They are intended to be included with all other recommendations and should be incorporated as conditions for a use permit. We believe that these provisions should be agreed upon and adopted prior to the zoning board granting final approval. Thank you for your cooperation. Respectfully submitted, John Elaine Wadle, John J. Wadle, and Christopher Wadle. Also, I have a comment. Looking at the comprehensive plan for 2030, I see that it refers to preserving farmland and agricultural resources, rural and scenic landscape views, wetlands and wildlife resources, water resources, lakes and streams, and natural resources. And it seems like this is a proposed plan by Alliant is in kind of contradictory to this comprehensive plan.
Which comprehensive plan is that?
That would be the Waushara County Comprehensive Plan.
John, I'll touch base on the comprehensive plans and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Gary and Ellen Kiskala.
Over 10 minutes.
That was just for the committee, ma'am.
Oh. This is probably taking up our, we got 4.5 minutes.
Can you talk into the microphone
Oh.
so everybody can?
We took up 30 seconds already. We're not trying to make a joke of this, but I have map. I want to show you a map. This is about Trout Stream. Header.
Sure, you can hand them over here. We'll pass them around.
Okay. Okay.
All right. We own the property that is right on Highway 21, just north of the proposed solar field. We are right off of Bird Creek, and we're just thankful for an opportunity to present our thoughts. You know, we feel at this moment that we're just walking through formalities, kind of that maybe there's already been a decision reached. And I just think that the whole business could have been brought before the county a year or two ago already. Soon as you got the first inkling that this was going about, that it could have been a referendum to give everybody a chance to vote on it. But when you look at all these trout streams, I just can't hardly believe that you're going to go ahead with this project. You know, we have some of the best waters in the state. We have over 160 miles of trout streams. The county. It's just like if you look, Dakota Township has got the majority of it. So this is, we talk about protecting and preserving our land, and we try to care for it the best we can. We have quite a bit of acres of forest, and I am concerned if a fire ever would break out, usually the winds with the storm of that magnitude would be out of the southwest. It would be blowing right towards our place. So I want to know that we would be covered for damages. Not just that it took 100 years or better for that timber to grow. I just don't want to see it burned up. This is a unique sand country. It's you propose this immense change. This produces waters that trout respond to. This valuable, worthwhile, precious source of pristine drinkable water gives life to people, animals, trees, and plants. You can't replace the water. The watersheds of Dakota could be negatively impacted, affecting the future life of certain plants and animals. That include humans too in that. The decision you make regarding this proposed 1,284 acre project will have long-lasting effect on the people who live and visit Waushara. The peace and beauty of this township will be disrupted by a decision to go forward with the project like this. Dakota is not a fallow land, but it's rich with life of nature's streams, springs, ponds, woodlands, and crops. God's blessed this land, and it's up to us to take care of it.
Thank you for having us. It was another beautiful day in Waushara County. I give a little history, not as long as Andy. First, I'm sorry, Andy. For 75 years, our family members have lived at this property where we're at. We live at the old Captain Bird historic property. It was the site of the first county fairgrounds. Our family has supported this county through 4 generations by paying our taxes, through providing businesses, and years of employment at various places. And this is all God's blessing on our family. This proposal is not something that cannot be changed. Could. We believe Dakota is a poor selection for a project like this. There are 3 watersheds in the township of Dakota and 11 watersheds in the whole county of Waushara. That's an amazing fact, a true fact. should this go forward, please put these 3 conditions we request in the written minutes of this meeting. These 3 conditions are in addition to all the other land use conditions stated by the concerned citizen group that were read, incorporated in part of those to be adopted. I gave you a copy. Should I?
Go ahead.
I can read them fast. I'm gonna beat you, Andy.
Go ahead, read 'em.
Number 1, place an earthen berm around the substation 20 feet high to protect our land from any fires that could be produced by the substation. Move the substation at least 200 yards away from our property line. Number 2, 200-yard setback from our entire land boundary. It's on the projects all the southern and west. Number 3, regarding the access to the project area, place the parking lot for the workers closer to the Blacktop Road on 16th Drive. Keep at least 200 yards away from our closest border to the southeast. So we give you some food for thought. I'm thankful that we have a Waushara County Board and that we have a government and that we're a free country. And thank you for hearing us.
Did any of you? So rest easy tonight.
I'm just thinking we're gonna need a bigger boat. Every time I see him, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Yep.
Next one.
Nancy Anderson.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Anderson. I live at N 1532 State Road 22, Town of Dakota. I live near the airport. And thank you for listening. Just have a few comments. There's one positive thing that has come from the solar farm ordeal, and that is my husband and I have met a lot of new neighbors who really care about what is happening to our community. We have great appreciation for our amazing natural beauty, our crystal clear, clean waters, abundant diversity of wildlife, recreational opportunities, familiar farmland, and the country feel we all enjoy living in a small town. We know our town of Dakota is a hidden gem. Unfortunately, we have been discovered by a solar company that wants to build here out of pure convenience to them. Their secret deals have proven them to be untrustworthy from the very beginning. We are part of a community of people who love where they live and don't want to see it ruined. There is nothing beautiful about a view of 317,356 China solar panels. I feel we should be protecting our precious land, natural resources, and wildlife so they can be enjoyed by us and future generations. Thank you.
And Glenn Anderson.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here with a saddened heart. Coming from the city to the Watoma area, I never guessed that I would have to be worried about industrialization following me and taking over our beautiful farm fields. For a moment, if we could take a moment and look at what 30 years can do to us, I'm sure I won't be here. If I am, the Lord bless me, and the majority of the people here won't be here anymore. What that means is decisions made here about this will be passed on to our future generations, and our kids might be wondering, what the heck did we do? One of the most frustrating things for me is the conflicting information that has been out there as I can get it. If I followed a paper trail, First News, we talking about 200 acres, 20 to 30-year lease. We've talked about Common Council going on with the plan. site will generate 1,500 homes, some corrections in the paper. Now this paper is 624 acres. We moved to 535 acres, 15,000 homes. And then only certain people close to the project get the Public Service Commission report. I don't understand why. You get a new map that shows quite a few different areas than what was in the paper for the first map. So we don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. Now, in the paper today, it's 624 acre, 25,000 homes. And the Wautoma Common Council talks about 120 acres at the airport. How can we give a permit out to 12 different areas and we don't know what they're doing? If I had 5 properties and wanted to build a house, wouldn't you know which to build it on? I can't understand what we're doing. Maybe you could tell me what we're doing. When I look at the one even that was put up today, it reflect this one. Alternate sites. Do we know they're going to take them? Are they going to stick with the regular sites? What's to stop them from expanding to taking these other sites? I don't know. Do you? Can you tell me? Could somebody tell me? Okay, well, when will we know, the public, what we're doing? How can we get a permit if we don't know what we're doing? A little bit ahead of ourselves? Should we not wait what this commission
Sir,
report?
could you give him a chance to answer that question?
Yes, yes.
John, you're not the president.
This is what we'll build. That requires screening that typically do. Setback. Expand our footprint. That's what we're doing. Add to it.
My experience in construction, permit could never be given unless all the ducks are in a row.
And sir, no permits will be given from this county until they have all of their.
So what does
approvals.
this conditional permit
This
mean?
is a conditional use. This is conditional use approval. This is giving approval of the concept. And we're asking that the site plan would be in substantial compliance. And that's going to be one of the first conditions, should this go forward, has to be in substantial compliance with their proposed development plan. Should it alter significantly, we're coming right back here and doing this all over again.
Now, in these meetings, I learned bits and pieces all the time, and there was talk about a land use permit.
A land use permit, sir, is later on down the road, once they receive their approvals from the PSC, once they get all their permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Natural Resources, they will then submit to our department. They'll give all the copies of all their approvals, all their permits from those agencies, regulatory agencies. Then they submit a land use permit. And then I have to verify, or our team will verify, that it's in substantial compliance with, number one, all the conditions that'll be placed upon it, as well as the overall configuration. It can't expand without it coming back through this process. It could modify slightly within. Modules can move within the development area. I would consider that to be substantially compliant. If they take modules out of A and put them down into E, Once again, that's substantially in accordance with their overall development plan.
So there'll be another meeting?
No, the land use permit is done internally once they get their approvals.
That won't involve the public?
No.
So I still think this is premature for them to even grant them to move forward without that commission report saying it's okay, environmentally okay? The DNR?
It won't go anywhere without their authority and without their approvals.
Then why are we even here today on
The
this?
conditional use is granting them the right to possibly do it. I mean, it's giving them the approval to go ahead with all of their other development reviews that they've got to do. And we're more or less granting a blessing on the concept. But the concept will not go forward until they get all of their ducks in a row and they get all their permits.
Now, it was mentioned earlier, but it doesn't seem to phase us anymore. They had said their panels are coming from China. We know that that's child source mind and child labor to putting it together, and we're okay with that? That's what we want to have placed here? I mean, our standards of life for our children, and it's okay because it's happening to another country, that's okay? We're okay with that? It's where our building materials are coming from for this. I mean, President Biden has put a halt to imports of that kind of panels. Panels, does that hinder you from getting them then, or where are they coming from? You have them stuck in a warehouse already? I understand there is a United States manufacturer of panels. Can that be sourced from them? So if the panel lets this go forward, we have a guarantee that it is as shown, not these alternative areas included, unless they, I mean, how are we to know? Again, that's the frustrating part for me, is the bits and pieces of contradicting information I have gotten since I got wind of this whole thing. That was in 2019 in the paper, and I did go to that meeting at the village. The information changes all the time, and I just wonder, is this what it'll be, or how do we know, or we don't know? As the public, we won't know.
Once again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but from a zoning perspective, and that what's being granted tonight, if it goes forward, and that is that what you see on that plan is the preliminary plan, same thing we do for building, and that it's a preliminary plan at this point in time. They need to get all their approvals from the PSC, DNR, USAACE. They've got to get all of their approvals. However, there cannot be any major modification to the development plan without that going before this committee.
At that last presentation, Andy, you were there and you had asked for a landscape plan be included. Did you receive that?
And that's one of the things, we did receive a landscape plan. It was a site plan. It was shown up on the illustrations. One thing that we are going to ask for, and we have incorporated in a condition, I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, is that prior to the issuance of a land use permit, they submit an overall site plan showing which properties are going to be affected by this 500 or 600 foot parameter.
We had a couple of union bosses walk up here, and believe me, I'm glad to hear from them. I'm union myself, but there is no guarantee they'll use you. They'll use the people that are in the construction outfit wherever they're from. If they by chance are short a guy or two, you might get a call, but I think we all been around the block of how that really works. Thank you guys for listening to me. Things to consider. Please understand my frustration. It's just the way the information has gotten out and about to me and to the other members that are concerned. We really don't know 100% what's going on. And my love of looking at the fields might be gone. The industrial age caught up to me. It's just hard to trade good productive farm fields for weather permitting solar fields. I don't get it for our wonderful area here, but again, thanks for listening. Andy, it was said by Mark, he had looked up the docket. I have a computer, I have a cell phone that's smarter than me. He had looked up that docket, and any kind of thing on the environmental is blacked out. It was like useless information. But what good is it to us trying to learn what's going on? It was useless information for us because it didn't tell us anything. Well, that much protection, it must not be long.
Let's move along here. There's a lot more people to comment now.
I do have.
You've stated your statement, sir.
Thank you again.
All right.
I do have several people registered in only in opposition, but wishing not to speak. I'll read their names. Judy Voigt, Barbara Semro, Holly Dalkey, Alan Larson, Dawn Peterson, Judy McCall, Paul Hedrick, and Christopher Wadle. Now I do have a few people registered, to speak, appear and speak for informational only. The first being John Tucker. And John, you have a PowerPoint? Okay.
That can't be here. Elward has quite a extensive presentation. I would like to go through it probably faster than Elward would. And I love Elward, believe me. I've worked with him quite a bit. Just my background, John Tucker's the name, is from Trout Unlimited, the Central Wisconsin chapter. I've been president of it twice. I'm term limited, so I can't do it again. My wife's been president. Probably my son will be president. So we take these streams very, very seriously. My wife and I are also founders of a group called TU Cares. And our focus is getting the trout streams in the central Sandhills area into the shape that they can be destination sites for trout fishermen, like the TU Dares area, the driftless area of southwest Wisconsin reports that they bring in $1 billion a year from the fishing industry. Now, we don't expect to be that big, but we think we can bring in a lot of money to the area. So the first slide here that Elward has brought up here has the West Branch of the White River. I see now back here. It's somewhat important to him. I think it's his backyard, basically. It's a very unusual stream, and I say probably a lot of the locals don't know this about it. It's only about 8 miles long. It has all three species of trout, brooks, brown, and rainbow. And there's only about a half a dozen streams in the state that are like that. That's rare. It's cold, clear water. And another fact that you wouldn't know is that this has been our first stream picked to be the blue ribbon trout stream for this endeavor to bring fishermen in. In order to check on the rainbow trout, which we thought might be declining, turns out they're not, we requested a DNA study to say what strain is this trout, because if we're going to stock the stream, we have to find a compatible strain of trout. Well, guess what? There is no compatible strain of rainbow trout like this in the country, maybe not the world. What that means is this strain of trout's been here since the ice ages, most likely. Nobody knows where it came from. Didn't come from out west, Rockies, didn't come from Michigan. So anyway, interesting stream, very important. What was his other, let's see, I'll try to have to read long. I think that's the basic thing, is it is such a precious stream. We don't want it. I know that the drilling under it is supposed to be safe, probably is. But, you know, I've been involved in a lot of other things here, like the confined animal feeding operations. Hey, a lot of manure there, but they have manure ponds and they're always going to be safe. Not opposed to dairy. I drink milk, but there are accidents, and accidents happen. And when those ponds, they always end up in the stream somewhere and kill the fish. So very sensitive of things like that. Could we go next one? Spring Creek. Okay, this is more of the West Branch, but the Silver Brook stream that he's referring to here, you may know of as Mud Creek. It's a very short stream, but the runoff, I believe this is near the Big Hill, heads into that area. If I'm correct on that, it may be Lunch Creek instead of Silver Brook. In any case, I did walk the field there, and there's a big spring area that does run off one of the farmlands that's indicated as part of this project and goes into this stream. So small stream compared to West Branch, but it's an important stream. Next one. This is more about Little Silver Brook. At least get some good pictures here. We had a photographer walking with Elward and me a few days ago who took a lot of these pictures. This one, sloping, water flows from the field into a wetland, which this is the one referring to where the Silver Brook comes from. Wet soils, ponds, each season of the year. Some of these fields around these streams, like this Little Silver, my understanding, and farmers here know this much better than me, but there's water standing in those fields in the spring quite a bit. And I understand that wherever you're going to put your solar panels, you don't want them to be standing in a field of water. Is that right? Next one. This is the field. This is the big field, the Big Hill. Field slopes south to Lunch Creek watershed. Now, I heard earlier that there are no tiles, but Elward says this field was tiled to drain the springs within the field. Water won't drain if the tiles are cracked. I understand you will fix any tiles you break. That's just another concern. There could be damage to these tiles that would then affect the water going to Lunch Creek. By the way, Trout Unlimited has monitoring stations on all of these streams for the months of May through September. once a month, we have streams, teams of 4 or 5 people to go out on all these streams, and they check the water for clarity, oxygen content, how fast it's flowing, what kind of bugs does it have in it. It's a pretty extensive thing. That data all goes into a UW extension database. So we have how the water is today, and we'll have how the water is at. We will know if there have been accidents, and we certainly hope they don't happen. If there are, we'll be on top of that. Should know that EPA has a Clean Waters Act. They used to enforce that very brutally. We're a rancher out west, and you had a pond, a little puddle of water from the rain, and you filled it in, you might get fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. Trump administration chopped some of the teeth out of that right before he left office in 2000. The part relating to what they call ephemeral water, that's when it rains and the water trickles down. That's an ephemeral stream. It's only there when it rains, but it can be protected. That's back in. So I would just like to point out that all these fantastic trout streams that we love are for the protection of the Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Waters Act. If there were, this is not a threat, but if there were significant damage to the streams, that would lead to an EPA lawsuit. Something that we certainly don't want to have happen. Next one. Again, I don't know what these are going to be till they pop up. We heard from the John and Elaine Weddell. Go through that anymore. See what the next one is. So you get a good view of the countryside here. Maybe you know most of it, but in walking with Elward and our photographer, getting back away from the roads and behind some of the fields, it's a beautiful landscape, rolling farm hills, woods, and all kinds of water runoff that goes into these streams. This one is flowing to a permanent wetland. Can't address that anymore. Let's go to the next one. This is the big hill. I've heard several comments tonight about how you're going to put solar panels on that big hill, have them be less than a 7% slope, 7% slope. That means scraping off the top of the hill and spreading it out or what, but the more earth you move, the more likelihood of problems. And again, this is supposed to be a wildlife habitat that's unique in this area. Next one. Okay. I guess that's, I can't do Elward, I'm not sure what all he wanted to do, but I thought he and Julie Eager back here spent a lot of time putting that together. At least should get a glance at it. Got a great thing going here with the waters here in what's called the Central Sandhills ecoregion. We're one piece of it. It goes through about parts of 9 counties. But a real important piece is right here in Waushara County. It has some of the best of the best. I know that our energy company does not want to damage that either, but it is of utmost importance that we monitor that and don't let it happen. If it does happen, we will raise hell. Sorry for that. Anyway, thanks for letting me talk. Didn't know I was going to have to do it. But
Okay, Mike McClay. I'm Mike McClay. I live in Richford. Thank you for having this meeting tonight. Tonight it is my goal
to shine some sunlight on two areas that haven't received the necessary illumination, in my opinion. The first is that this proposal, far from an electrical generation capacity, is redundant. That is, it's not necessary. Wisconsin receives sunshine on average, annual daylight basis, only 50% of the time. Since the day-night split in Wisconsin is about 50-50, this means only 25% of the hours in a day over a year have sunshine. Currently, and for the foreseeable future, electricity produced by the solar panels can't be reasonably stored. The addition of this proposal won't cause any of Alliance fossil fuel plants to be shut down or taken off of line. They need to provide 24/7 coverage, not 6 hours, 7-day coverage. If the storage problem isn't solved in the future, Alliant will, in fact, need to build new fossil fuel generating plants to replace the obsolete ones. They need to provide 24-hour coverage. You can't do it with solar panels. I have documentation here on the numbers I'm going to give out, and I'll pass that to Todd later on. Coal, natural gas. If you take it from the beginning to the end, from extracting it from the ground, refining it, building the power plants, getting it to the customer, coal, natural gas, 3 units of energy in gives you 100 units of energy out. 3 to 100. Solar, because of its exotic materials that require special mining, the tremendous amount of copper, 70 units of power in to get 100 out. I don't think solar is very efficient from that point of view. 3 versus 100, 70 versus 100. We're being told tonight how much this is going to save. What's not being told is to manufacture those solar panels, extract all of the materials in copper, they're going to burn enough CO2 that it's going to take this farm 10 plus years to recoup that loss. So for 10 years, we're going to be generating more CO2 than this farm is going to save. It's going to take 10 plus years to recoup the CO2. Therefore, due to the poor energy return, 70 versus 100, the large CO2 deficit for 10 years, and the lack of reasonable long-term storage, I don't think solar panels will ever become a significant factor in green energy. Panels only produce when the sun is shining. Therefore, a reliable backup is necessary. My final and most important point is going to upset some people. Alliant presently plans to purchase communist Chinese-made solar panels. John Kerry, Biden's green energy czar, just confirmed to Congress that communist China is committing Uyghur genocide while manufacturing solar panels. Today, this morning, Nancy Pelosi said, and I quote, "Yes, communist China is committing genocide against the Uyghurs. Having said that, the bigger overriding issue is working together on climate change." So according to Nancy Pelosi, we're accepting genocide to prevent climate change. Uyghurs, in case you don't know who they are Chinese Muslims. The Chinese government only allows one religion. It's not Muslim. Communist China is attempting to exterminate the Uyghurs, much the same as Hitler tried to exterminate the Jews. Those of us who are alive today, who were alive during World War II, remember the Nazis, the Holocaust, and Auschwitz. Communist China is not only forcing the Uyghur males to make their solar panels,
They also forced them to mine and refine the polysilica, a main solar panel component. When the male Uyghur can't work anymore, they become unwilling organ donors, much the same as Auschwitz. The female Uyghurs are sterilized and forced into sex slavery. Currently, Communist China is building more than 300 new coal-fired generating plants. Money is fungible. Spend it on anything. Illicit profits from selling the genocide solar panels could be funding the 300 plus coal plants. So I have two scenes. I have China building 300 new coal plants and using genocide labor to produce the panels, and the United States shutting down coal plants because there's too much carbon dioxide being generated and putting in Chinese solar panels. One of those scenes is wrong. I'll let you decide. When these coal-fired plants come online in communist China, 3 Chinese cities, just 3 cities served by these coal-fired plants will be putting more CO2 into the atmosphere than the whole rest of the world is forecasted to be saving in a year. 3 Chinese cities are going to offset everything everybody else in the world is doing. Whether you approve or deny this proposal, it needs to be amended to mandate only solar panels made in the United States. Thank you for your time.
And last, we have Jim Weissenberger. Oh, thank you.
Cleaned up to come and see you, gentlemen. Jim Weisenberger, I live at N 2016 County Road GG, Waushara County. I'm a permanent resident here. I spent my career, 48 years in the power industry. I left Southern California Edison Company in the early 1990s. I was on the power supply staff and at the corporate level. Started my own company, and I did consulting throughout the United States, internationally, on power generation issues and regulatory issues. I really didn't, you guys are probably going to go ahead and approve the solar plant. But I think there's been a lot of information that was shared tonight, and valuable information as to what the community is waking up to. I don't blame Alliant Energy. These guys are the team that is sent out here to sell the deal. But the deal is that they don't get, just like council had expressed, they don't get the public benefit money unless they do the deal. And when in 1992 at Southern California Edison Company, we had 21 public benefit funding sources, which were either tax benefits, they were either grants, or they were subsidies. We found out a long time ago that a lot of the alternate energy, which we started experimenting with back in the 1970s, was solar one, biogas. We had coal gasification. We had battery storage research. But they couldn't stand on their own without subsidies. Just like we were talking about that we got a 30% that we're hearing on, but there's a lot of other ones that are weaved in and out of the financing of running a utility industry. Solar is not going to be the panacea that everybody thinks it is. We've experimented with it, but it's a political issue, and you guys are part of the political machine. You can either approve it, you can sit on it, or you can deny it. But the fact of the matter is, it may not be a good fit for Waushara County. If you recognize that they're not proposing to build this on Maple Ridge in Madison, that's where the governor's house is and a lot of big mansions. They have a siting committee long before these guys are sent out to sell the deal. They have a siting committee that they put together, and they look at different geographical areas. And there's no question in the state of Wisconsin that Waushara is a poor county, is one of the poorest counties in the state because of our economic base and everything, and industry, commercial, etc. But $385,000, as the administrator had pointed out there,
coming to the county and the town of Dakota, that's lunch money. You factor that into and that's state revenue sharing that you're going to be getting. But that has nothing to do with Alliant Energy. They're just facilitating it for you. But you need to go back and, as well as some of the conditions, renegotiate with Alliant, find out, well, what bite of the apple are they going to give up directly from the corporation to make this work for us? And besides that, all of this money that's put into the mix with the public benefit funding, with the rate base that they apply for and get approved through the Public Utilities Commission, that's our money. That's the taxpayers' money. That is the ratepayers' money. It's not Alliance. It's not any one of these guys that are on a salary. It's not council's money or the project manager's money. It's our money. You are stewards of the public. You are the ones that represent us. You don't represent the union representation. I was a union member. I know why they're here, because jobs. That's their job, is to go out there and solicit and get a job for their members. You were put here by us, and you are stewards of our money. You need to recognize the overall picture, and I think the communities and the people are waking up to a lot of this new Green Deal and a lot of these things. A lot of billions of dollars are passing back and forth between countries and politicians and so on. I can assure you that long before these guys were sent up here to sell the deal, that lobbyists for Alliant Energy and consultants have already bought a lot of dinners here in Waushara County and maybe in Madison to sell the deal and put it on the table for these guys to do it. Because I used to have an expense account doing those things. And it's not a secret. But that's the way the game works. We used to have an old saying in Sacramento, let's go take a walk around the park. That's around the Capitol building. And they got a park around the state Capitol building down there too. And maybe some of you have taken that walk. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that maybe it's not a good fit for the community. If you approve it tonight, maybe you sit on it. You don't have to do anything. If you do go ahead and approve it, it's going to be the Hatfields and the McCoys in your community. Me, I'm 73 years old. I've already done all these things before. I don't need to do it again. But you got a responsibility. Live up to that responsibility and do the right thing.
That's it.
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In terms of staff's report, I really don't have that much more than what's in your report. Obviously, since the last meeting, we've held informational meetings with residents, the towns, and as well as the county. There have been tours with various representatives here and with individuals and from the adjoining properties. And staff, has been working with representatives from Alliant to make sure that we're trying to address the concerns that have been raised at the meetings. And I've said this before, and I'm gonna reiterate it. From a zoning administrative perspective, we are entrusted here at the county to ensure that development proposals comply with state statute, county and local ordinances, as well as comprehensive plans. Now, at our business meeting on Wednesday, I had distributed to the committee various documents, one of which is the state statute 66.0401 regulation relating to solar and wind energy systems. I've highlighted some sections in there for the committee just to identify the do's and don'ts that are supposedly directed from the state towards the counties. And I'm going to read one. It's section 1M. No political subdivision may place any restriction either directly or in effect on the installation or use of a solar system energy system as defined in state 13.48 subsection 2 subsection H1G or a wind system unless the restriction satisfies one of the following conditions: serves to preserve or protect the public health or safety, does not significantly increase the cost or system of or significantly decrease its efficiency, and allows for an alternative system of comparable cost and efficiency. And then it also goes in later on, and it just says that our provision to deny an application for approval is that it must be shown on a map as either future residential or commercial development. And then it gives dates under the comprehensive plans before July 2nd, 2009. The Town of Dakota Comprehensive Plan was developed in 2006. I also gave out a copy. It's just a page from the Waushara County Comprehensive Plan. It's section 4.1.12. We are to encourage major energy consumers to participate in renewable energy programs through the state of Wisconsin and participating utility companies. We are to promote participation in programs available for development and implementation of solar, wind, hydro, biogas, and other renewable resources. And then also the Town of Dakota Comprehensive Plan, I gave just a couple sections. There's section, it's 637. We are to support efforts to provide electrical, gas, and telecommunication services to meet industrial and residential needs while being environmentally conscientious. And then section 1.6, we are to support the Waushara County ordinance for the provision of, now back then in 2006, wind farms were the big rave, for the provision of wind farms. We are to proactively take a stance. This is the town was to proactively take a stance on potential requests by utilities to erect a wind farm within the community. And the sites that they actually chose were sites that were actually designated because of airport zoning restrictions, agricultural preservation corridors. On the comprehensive plan, this is the plan, the area that is the agricultural preservation corridor is exactly the land that's been chosen by Alliant. So I just wanted to point out that the comprehensive plans and the state statutes, kind of are our guides. Staff has, continued to review this request. We continue to believe that the proposal put forth by Alliant Energy is not only meeting an ever-increasing demand for green or renewable energy, it is being designed so as to be sensitive to the surrounding land uses and the natural site impediments, while also providing a supplemental energy source back to the grid. Development also complies with not only the county comprehensive plans and goals, it meets all the standards as outlined in the county ordinance pertaining to wind energy and solar farms. While the committee will be making a recommendation on this request later in the evening, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use request to establish a 99 megawatt solar farm on 624 operational acres of an approximate 1,283 acre development project in the town of Dakota, subject to the conditions listed in the report. I would like to point out there were several conditions that Alliant had asked us based upon the meetings that were held. I would like to point out a couple of these conditions. That number 8, the applicant shall work with the adjacent landowners to create a landowner-specific visual buffer plan per the following. Applicant shall meet with all landowners with an inhabited dwelling within 500 feet of any Watoma solar commercial operation area, PV solar panel array area, and within 650 feet of the project substation. The meeting with individual landowners will include an evaluation of existing visual buffers that may include but not limited to existing wooded areas, tree lines, trees, shrubs, outbuildings, solid fencing, and any off-site structures to determine additional visual barrier needs. From this evaluation, the applicant and the landowners will work to create an individual visual buffer plan. Said buffer shall be consistent in design at a minimum with that depicted on Exhibit A. That was that exhibit that was in your packet, but also shown up on the visuals. Number 9, prior to the issuance of a land use permit, the applicant shall submit a detailed site plan which clearly depicts or identifies all residences subject to the proposed visual buffer plan. Number 10, the applicant shall work with local snowmobile club trail managers and in coordination with the participating landowners to reestablish any mapped snowmobile trails that require relocation due to the final operational project area. Number 11, the applicant shall work with the Fox Valley Trout Unlimited to protect the local fisheries in and amongst the project area limits and any impact to the fishing during the project construction and operational phases of the I'm sorry, and limit any impact to the fisheries during the project construction and operational phases. Number 12, the applicant shall, as part of the project design, as part of the project design and construction, maintain to the extent practicable existing visual barriers, including existing tree lines, hedgerows, fences, or other visual barriers that don't have direct impact to the project layout and power collection efficiency. Additionally, the applicant shall meet all required setbacks established by the county and the self-defined setbacks which are proposed in the Certificate of Authority application to the Public Service Commission and the Waushara County CUP application. And I just have one more. The application acknowledges that due to construction work, the integrity of local town and county roads adjacent to and leading towards the project area to be used as construction access routes may be compromised. The applicant shall take ownership by ensuring that the conditions of the local road and county roads proposed to be used for the construction access will be restored to as good, if not better, condition than the pre-construction baseline levels. Pre-construction conditions of the roads proposed as construction access roads, haul roads, will be determined through a coordinated effort between a third-party engineering firm and Waushara County to establish a road condition baseline. During construction, if roads require repair, the county will repair the damage and the applicant will reimburse the county for the repair effort. At the completion of construction, post-construction conditions of the roads used as construction haul roads will be determined by a coordinated effort between the same third-party engineering firm and Waushara County. From this post-construction assessment, Waushara County will make the required repairs to bring the integrity to baseline or better conditions of the and the applicants will reimburse the county for the effort. And that's all I've got.
All right. Andy, if you're not tired of talking yet, you got a chance to rebuttal some, any, all, however the audience wants to stay. You want to come up to the microphone? Maybe they can't hear you way in back.
I'd like to say that in terms of what we heard tonight, and we've heard this several times, and it's definitely does not fall on deaf ears by any means. In terms of the water quality in the trout rivers and streams and creeks in the area, when you look at the watchdog of the public in the state of Wisconsin, being the Public Service Commission and also you guys, they would not be approving anything, any kind of a project like this, whether it's a gas line or whether it's an electrical line or whether it's a sewer, they wouldn't be approving projects that are not in the best interest of the public. That's the public of this community, the public of the state of Wisconsin. You could argue the public of the Midwest or even in the United States. They don't go ahead and make these approvals without looking at all of the information and all the studies that we have put together and shown on that list. They take a long time to look at them. They will produce an environmental assessment that will come out in November that explains their non-biased opinion on factual opinion on all of the reports that we talked about, the glare, the property values, all the safety issues. That will come out in a couple of months. And what it's going to demonstrate, it's very similar to all the other projects that the Public Service Commission has approved that are utility scale solars. Bear Creek, North Monroe, Grant County, Wood County, not quite Springfield yet, Point Beach, Two Creeks, Badger State, Badger Hollow. All of those projects are as big, if not bigger, than the projects that we're proposing here. So the Public Service Commission has looked at all of these applications. These are even bigger applications than we have put forward to the Public Service Commission for this particular project. They have environmental assessments done on each one of those projects, and they're for everybody's review. But the common theme here is, once again, they would not put the public and water quality the DNR the same way, the WEPA coordinators at the Public Service Commission, they would not put our state's water quality in harm's way. If they didn't think this project was in the best interest of the public, they wouldn't approve it. And I would imagine that you would do the same thing. So I'm trying to summarize as best as I possibly can about 12 comments and questions about the environment, about water quality, and about the wildlife in the area. It's the same thing with the wildlife. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say, Bill, or
My name's Brian Karcheski. I'm with Stantec Consulting. Been working with Alliant. I'm an environmental scientist with Stantec. Have been working in that capacity in Wisconsin for the last 35 years. I just wanted to point out or touch base on a couple of the comments. Number one, the issue with regard to the trout streams. Mr. Tucker brought up a number of very good points with regard to protecting the water quality of the trout streams. And I can assure you that not only Alliant, but the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Public Service Commission are also concerned about protecting the water quality of the trout streams. But from the very nature of the solar project, the area underneath the panels now, and I'm referring not only to the 600 or so acres that are going to be under the panels themselves, but also if you would extend that area out to the property boundaries, you would have about 800 to 900 acres of land of previously, or land that is currently under agricultural use that would be reverted to grassland and flower habitat. When you change land from an agricultural use to one that is consistently covered with a grassland habitat, you're going to increase infiltration into these soils. So you're not going to see over the operational time frame of this project, you're not going to see that water accumulating and running off directly into your streams. You're going to see it infiltrating into your soils. The soils in this area are sandy soils. They're excessively drained. They're part of the Central Sands region or the Great Glacial Outwash area. Those sands carry water directly to the groundwater, have very little retention of that water, very little filtering capacity of that water. If you increase the vegetation cover on the soil surface, you'll increase that filtering capacity. You'll increase infiltration. We are going to be taking these areas out of agricultural use and putting them into a much more, by putting them into that grassland, into that basically just that native state, we're going to be eliminating the fertilizers, the herbicides, and the pesticides that are applied to the ground by the farmer. In that situation, like I said before, the soils in this area are excessively drained, meaning they have a very quick connection to the groundwater of the area. Any fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicides that are applied to these soils will make their way down to the groundwater and will affect groundwater, will infect area streams and groundwater that have that groundwater interaction. The reason these streams are trout streams are by a number of reasons that people have brought up this evening. They stay warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. They do that because of that groundwater interaction. By taking these areas out of farmland, we're going to be decreasing surface water runoff, increasing groundwater recharge, and benefiting those trout streams over the lifespan of this project. Concerns with regard to construction associated with sediment and discharge to these streams. Mr. Tucker brought up again the EPA and their regulations. EPA's regulations are codified within what's called the NPDES permit, National Pollution Elimination Discharge System permit. DNR has their own variety of that permit. They took control of that permit. They administer that permit. They've made it actually more restrictive. It's called the Wisconsin Pollution Environmental Discharge System, or WPDS permit. They issue a notice of intent to grade from that permit to any applicant that is going to grade greater than 1 acre as a result for their project. I'm sure you're probably familiar with these regs. As a result of that, though, the DNR has a lot of oversight with regard to an applicant, what they can do, what they should meet, how much sediment can actually be leaving the site, and what kind of controls the applicant has to put on the property in order to eliminate that concern. Controls in the way of silt fence, drainage swales, sediment basins, sediment traps, like was mentioned before. So not only do they require the applicant to show how they're going to meet that, they also require the applicant to monitor that construction on a weekly basis, and then after each rainfall event that's greater than 0.5 inches in extent. So you may have timeframes when you have 2 inspections going on during a given week during the construction. Those inspections sometimes, and actually from the solar facilities that are going into Wisconsin now, the Office of Energy within the Department of Natural Resources does send people out to do spot checks of these areas to check and make sure that these things are being maintained and cared for and implemented effectively. There was a mention with regard to EMF again, and the only thing or radiation coming from panels. And really, I think the best way that I can answer this is by referencing your own health department official that on the behest of Mr. Waller did some research with regard to radiation that comes from solar fields, these types of fields, utility scale, large solar fields. And she found through her research that there is no extensive radiation that represents a public harm to the residents of Waushara County. And then lastly, the wildlife issues. While we cannot say that we're not going to have an impact to certain species, the fence line of the solar array will exclude deer from going into the farm fields. They will exclude staging areas because of the solar panels being on these farms. There are, but I must add that these habitats are not unique to these areas, these farmed habitats. They are very extensive and very available to those species that would be displaced. What's more important to say, though, is that by taking these lands out of an agricultural use and putting them into a grassland and forb or a pollinator habitat use, we're going to actually increase the wildlife habitat for a great number of species, more number of species than what would be displaced. We're going to be doing this because your insect community is going to grow because you have these types of plant species and forb species growing on this area, whereas now it's basically, devoid of that vegetation, or you have just corn or soybean, a monotype type of vegetation. That habitat's going to increase because of that resource. It's going to increase insect numbers. Yeah, by increasing insect numbers, you're going to increase songbird numbers. By increasing songbird numbers, you're going to increase raptor numbers. By increasing raptor numbers, you're going to decrease vermin numbers. So there's a whole chain of events from a wildlife aspect that are going to come into play that are actually going to be a benefit from the project. Thank you.
Okay, question. You're talking about the inspections with rainwater and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What is your process if you find that you're failing in one area? What happens?
The DNR requires that be corrected within 24 hours. So the inspector, the environmental inspector that comes out, they basically create an action list that has what area, what is the issue, the date that it was observed, and the time that it was observed. That information is shared immediately with the contractor on the site. They have 24 hours to correct that deficiency. If the silt fence falls down, they have to get it back up. If there's sediment that's shown to be going outside of the silt fence or overtopping a silt fence, they have to dig that sediment out, replace the silt fence to a normal operating condition. If the sediment trap is starting to get overloaded with sediment, or if it's starting to accumulate sediment, that sediment trap has got to be cleaned out. So I can't go through. I'm not one of the inspectors. We do have many of them that work on these projects, but these are all things that the DNR also looks for. They're going to basically say, all right, well, how are your sediment traps doing? How are your silt fence doing? They're going to look at the action plan. Are things being taken care of and being responded to readily and in a practical manner, meaning time frame? And that action plan, that inspection log has to be maintained and available to the DNR upon request.
Sure.
Also had recommended, and it mentioned Fox Valley Trout Unlimited.
Yeah.
I don't know if that can be revised to also include the Central Wisconsin Trout Unlimited. I'm sorry.
Fox Valley.
So is it?
We have 5.
Fair to say that if anything, Fox Valley should be replaced with.
And I know it's getting late, everybody's getting tired. I know at one of the meetings I was attending, there was this issue of the Chinese product. And I believe you were one of your representatives said that was the cheapest way. You were a big business and you got to save money. You've heard all the concerns, and is there any consideration of getting them made in the United States, even if the cost is substantially more, or is that totally out of the picture?
Application to them. Industry standard cost for the minute. Public conditions. Need replacement of a retirement. See, we also have to show them.
So the PSC is promoting the Chinese bot?
Say the PSCW. Economic. They have cost metric. Utility. Gas and electric. Solar panel manufacturer. Big world.
We're,
We are using the septic.
We could go on till midnight, 1 o'clock. I don't think anybody else wants to do that. We have to come to a decision. So that will include the question and answers and everything. We will now go into our regular scheduled meeting. You're all welcome to stay if you can stay awake. If not, the results will be posted. We have a wonderful Argus representative here. I'm sure this will make the front page of the Argus. So once again, we're going to go into the rest of our meeting. If you do want to stay, please be quiet so we can continue. If not, go out in the hallways either way. And thank you all for coming. At this time, we'll go on with our agenda. Give them a couple minutes to, pardon?
Give them a couple
Give them a couple
quiet
minutes to
down.
clear out or stay, then we'll get started. It's already, I warned you guys yesterday. Oh, get a little caught up in the moment. Maybe I need it.
Oh, yes, he was. It was kind of resentful of that. My dog.